On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring homes where cozy corners and grand shelves prove that great design begins with a love of books. First, we head to New Orleans, where a stately 1800s home features a magnificent library dressed in men's corduroy, the ultimate book lover's retreat. Next, in Baltimore, vintage finds and quirky treasures bring warmth and personality to a sweeping library that anchors the home. And finally, in the Virginia countryside, a 1950s stone Cape Cod has been transformed into a richly layered haven where an extensive library, surrounded by bold hues and storied collections, beckons with charm and inspiration. This summer, Homeworthy is proud to support the nonprofit Serious Fun.
Hey volunteers! We need you! To give kids living with serious illnesses a chance to go to camp, just like any other kid, and always at no charge. But we can't do it without you.
People talk about the magic of camp, but the magic is created by the people.
At Serious Fun Camps, no matter what you do best, there's a job you can do here to make memories that will last a lifetime.
It's magical, and it will be the best decision you make to get involved.
Well, hi, Homeworthy. I am Michael.
And I'm Quinn. Welcome to our New Orleans house. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Quinn Pieper, and we're in the sitting room of our house in New Orleans.
And I am Michael Harold, also in the city where I grew up, born and reared.
I'm an obstetrician gynecologist here in New Orleans. I've been practicing about 28 years here. And I grew up in Osceola, Arkansas during the weekend with my grandparents, and then during the week with our family in Memphis, Tennessee. Then I went to Lexington, Virginia, to Washington and Lee University, and then to Oxford in England for 3 years, and then Columbia for medical school, and more residency in New York, and then I came to New Orleans.
I went to a university in Tennessee, same state where he pretty much grew up in, at a small little school called Sewanee, and then I spent a junior year abroad in Spain learning the language, which I love. I still speak it and still enjoy it. And then went to law school at LSU here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and practiced for 23 years, and then quit, resigned, and I started a legal recruiting business. So now I help lawyers find new jobs.
Well, I had been away from the South for a long time, as far as England, and lived in New York for about 8 years. And so I wanted to come back south, but I wanted to be in a city that had a lot of history and culture and a cuisine, and New Orleans was it. It just fit the bill perfectly.
It is kind of a funny story how we met. We were on an airplane flying from New Orleans to New York, and we were sitting next to each other. And
I was coming to New Orleans for an interview for this job that I have.
And Quinn said something about, oh, you know, I play the piano. I said, I did too. And I think he kind of thought, yeah, right. And I said, oh no, I really do. And we compared notes on things we played, and we actually both had played one of these four-hand piano duets, to each of us with different people. And that led us to meeting up back in New Orleans and playing pianos and playing music and giving concerts.
Then we decided to write a book after a big concert that we gave in New Orleans, which was called Rock and Bach, because I played Rachmaninoff 2 with the Louisiana Philharmonic, and Michael played Bach Concerto No. 5. So with that, we started writing a book, and it's a book about food and entertaining guests and our music.
And if truth be told, we actually went to this beautiful lunch in London, and this woman is a famous writer, and she gets up and she toasts everyone, and she said, it's so nice to be around everyone who's written books. And I kind of looked down because I was embarrassed. I thought I've not written a book, and Quinn did write one. You can tell him the topic, but
Well, I mean, it's a gynecologic book, and nobody's having that on their coffee table.
Right. So we get on the plane, we're flying back to New Orleans, and Quinn says, "That's it, we're writing a book." And I said, "Oh, go ahead. I'm not about to do it." Well, we started talking about it, and yep, we ended up writing a book, and it's been very enlightening, and we have met incredibly great people doing this, all sorts of people. It opened up doors that I never knew existed. It's been a really fun experience.
So thanks to Antonia Fraser
Yes.
and Flora Fraser for cheering us on.
Yeah. The title of the book says Amateur Artistry, and we did that on purpose because neither of us are chefs, we're not professional pianists, we're not decorators or professional designers. This is just for fun, and that's why I was insistent on saying amateurs, because I don't want the world to think that we're any professionals here.
And amateur is, from the Latin meaning I love, and we love doing these things.
Yeah, it is fun.
Welcome to the foyer. The inspiration for this room came from Julia Reed. I saw her book that she wrote, I think it's One Man's Folly, about Furlough Gatewood. And I saw it when it was in the galleys phase before it was actually released and published. And I asked her what this technique was on Mr. Gatewood's wall, and she told me that it was just plywood. So here we have our version of Mr. Gatewood's plywood, given this nice rusticated look, which is kind of formal for a foyer. And I always wanted a nice foyer, and this was a double house in New Orleans. So there was a staircase here that went up along that wall. And there's no reason to have two staircases in this if it's a single dwelling. So by eliminating this staircase, we had a deeper foyer for this, for instance, console that is a George III piece. And I'm particularly fond of this mirror. This is a French mirror. And if you look closely at the frieze, they're playing musical instruments. And that's kind of what Michael and I do. So it's a rather perfect thing for this foyer. This actually has a pretty funny story. Would you like to talk about this, Michael? We love Grand Tour artifacts, and this was from a trip to Italy.
It's got
That got
Italian
me in
dust.
trouble. They got me in trouble departing the country.
Yeah, we were in the Rome airport, the international airport, and suddenly the gentleman the TSA in Rome starts laughing, and he's like, "Come here, bene, you have to see this. It was only the vedere," whatever he said. And so we go, and he said, "You can come back and look." And I look, and here's this huge foot in this suitcase. Obviously, I mean, you're the doctor. You would see
You would see bones.
Not
But the
a whole
woman
foot.
who initially saw it totally freaked out, thinking
Yeah.
that Michael and I are leaving Rome after we've dismembered somebody and took a
Right.
foot along as a souvenir. But
that was funny. And then this is a hall chair. We're lucky to live just a few blocks away from a very talented linen owner. Leontine Linens is the name of the store. And the owner is our friend, Jane Scott Hodges. She did the beautiful monogram for us. You'll see through the house a bunch of Quinn's needlepoint as we give you a tour, but this is my favorite. He did this door pull, and it's in Latin. And Dorothy Parker had a quote. It said, when people would ring her bell, is that what it is?
Yeah.
It would say, "What fresh hell is this?" And so Quinn put it in Latin. I don't know why you didn't want to have her.
well, I
in
just
English.
don't think
Oh.
if it said, "What fresh hell is this?" people would feel that welcome.
Yeah, I guess you're right. They would not be
Unless
happy
they know
about
Latin, and if they do, then
Good for them.
yeah. These are more Grand Tour intaglios, which we like to collect. These are engravings of various buildings at Oxford University, where I spent 3 happy years. This is a engraving of Blenheim. It's called Blenheim House, but it's Blenheim Palace, where Michael and I got married. And here is a little frieze of the Duke of Wellington. We have a lot of Duke of Wellington things in the house because, unbeknownst to us at the time, June 18th is Waterloo Day. And Lady Antonia Fraser told us, you're getting married on Waterloo Day. And we really didn't. But since she's told us that, we have collected things of the Duke of Wellington in our house. And in New Orleans, where everybody wants Napoleon, the Duke of Wellington is much cheaper and easy to collect.
This is kind of a funny story. We live in a city with magnificent houses, all of them just one better than the other. And we had an old house, and we sold the old house, and we had to find a new one. And Quinn was insistent upon an antebellum home with soaring 14-foot ceilings and all these beautiful crown molding that you see in the houses here. And the realtor said, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this is not an antebellum home. It was built in 1862. And we said, okay, well, we'll call it the Bellum House because it's not ante or post. It's flat out during the war, which is pretty fascinating. But what's so good about the house are the rooms. The rooms are perfect for entertaining. That's why we really enjoy it here.
Our previous house was an Edwardian house, and it was in uptown New Orleans. And I call those homes, pre-birth control pill houses, because I think they were 3 stories with lots and lots of bedrooms. And this is 2 stories. This is actually a camelback house. 1 story with an addition on the second making a kind of camelback. And it's for better entertaining, this house. We don't need 6 bedrooms.
No, we don't. Mm-mm. All right, now we're going to take you into one of our favorite rooms, the sitting room or the living room. This way.
I'd like to start with this painting here. This is a painting by Pickersgill, who was with the Royal Academy, and this is Major General Sir Robert Wilson. He was a professional mercenary, and as you can tell by all the medals on his chest, he worked for a lot of different countries. He was involved with the Napoleonic Wars. He was with Tsar Alexander in East Prussia and Nelson in Egypt, and he actually became a member of Parliament. And this painting was, I received it in a will by the previous tenant of this house. And I remember seeing it a long time ago when I lived in Memphis as a teenager. It was featured when his house, Walker Ronaldson's house, was in Southern Accents. And it was in his dining room back then. So this Major General Wilson has made the rounds, shall we say. Another aspect of this room that I like a lot and enjoy are our bookcases. These bookcases are inspired from William Kent at Holcombe Hall, and they're painted a creamy color and gilt, and they contain a lot of my favorite books. One book over here in particular is, I guess, the oldest book that I have in this collection is a 1630 biography of Queen Elizabeth I. Someone once asked me, do you really want me to believe that you've read all these books on this shelf? And I said, actually, I'm insulted you think these are the only books I've ever read. But they contain a lot of really fun stuff, all the way from Victorian editions of Punch to Alice in Wonderland, several copies of the Diary of Samuel Pepys, and I think visitors enjoy looking at them as well. The fireplace is original and came with the house, and the mirror is from a great antique store here called Lucullus. It's a Louis Philippe gilt mirror. And these wonderful globes are painted globes. They're actually 18th century from a great dealer, friend of ours, Michael Carbine at Mac Maison Antiques. Unfortunately, at some point in the 70s, a contractor got hold of this house, and he or she bricked up all of the fireplaces. So we have to put, palmettos in the front to make it look appealing.
All right, I have to brag about Quinn because he's not going to brag about himself. But as you know, he's a surgeon, and I have, when I tell you, 0 home craft capabilities, none, no talent for it. But I'm going to brag. Look at this pillow. It's incredible. He needle points everything, and it's his way of relaxation. He doesn't travel anywhere without canvases and stitching. Here's another one right here he did.
That's a pear.
Oh, a pear, yeah. And then show him this one, hot mess.
This was my COVID needle point. As a doctor, I was working at labor and delivery a lot. I wasn't really locked down. I was in the hospital. So hot mess. And that about says it all about COVID.
I keep telling him, I think he should have a pillow in his clinic, in his office, to say, look, if you need a good surgeon, this stuff's perfect. So anyway, I can brag about him. But I think, and also almost every room has his pillows. They're terrific.
I needle pointed, I don't know. I started up again in New Orleans for sure. Needle Arts, they took me under their wing and taught me a stitch or two. This is my armorial bearings. I did this needlepoint to make a fire screen. So you'll see a lot of this throughout the house. This is a grant of arms from the Royal College of Arms, and it sort of tells the story, I guess, of my life. I worked with Henry Bedingfield at the time. He was the York Herald. And so we have the stork here and the stork here on the crest. And at one point, he introduced me to these piano keys. You know, I play the piano. When he first wrote me about the piano keys, I thought, well, I don't know, that sounds kind of tacky. And he said, well, you know, there's only one version of this left because we have 3 black keys, 2 black, and then 3 black. So you can have the 2, 3, 2. And after I finished talking to him, I thought, well, I wonder who has the other. So I emailed him back and I said, who has the other keyboard? And his response was 3 words, Sir Elton John. So I was like, oh, well, you know what? I've thought over and I think I will take the 2, 3, 2. So here you can see 2, 3, 2. And the Latin here is Gaudia per manus meas, and that's joy through my hands, which is, you know, delivering babies, playing the piano, and doing needlepoint. Okay, the boxes are some of my decoupage. And so I take marbled papers. Sometimes I make the marbled papers. These I didn't. And these are different composers commemorated in stamps and currency. So this is Chopin. This is when I was playing a Chopin concerto. This is Bach with Bach currency and stamps. Michael played the Bach concerto in a program. And he also did Mozart. And here is Rachmaninoff. This is Russian money and Rachmaninoff stamps that I used for this one. This box is Mozart operas. So each stamp is a different Mozart opera. So together they make a nice little place for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. You know, this room tends to get a little leggy. It's very 18th century. We don't have many upholstered pieces. And so just to do something with this sofa, you can see it was the legs here.
We have stuff under it hidden,
Ethan
I'm sure.
Allen. So we decided to just go ahead and cover the sofa and give it a little softer look in here. And I like camelback sofas, so I think it was a good save.
In a camelback house. It's kind of a rust color. Yeah, I love it. It came out great. I don't remember where you even found it.
The rust is good. I mean, it picks up the kind of rust red coat of Major General Robert Wilson there, so.
We had a wedding ceremony in England at Blenheim Palace, and we're friends with the daughter of now the sister of the Duke, Henrietta, Spencer Churchill. And Quinn said, oh, I think it would be great if we got married. And she said, well, have it here at home. Anyway, we did it there, and it was one of the greatest days ever. It was just fantastic. So Quinn gets online and decides, I think it would be really funny. He doesn't tell me. He goes and Googles Queen Elizabeth lookalikes. And sure enough, this woman, Patricia Ford, is that her name? She shows up. And he calls her and hires her to come. And of course, she didn't fool any of the Brits, but we had a number of people from New Orleans who really kind of thought
dropping
it was Queen
curtsies.
Oh yeah, it was like having Santa Claus, you know, at a Christmas party. It was just priceless, and she's still around, I guess, playing Queen Elizabeth. But anyway, it was really funny.
Well, the house was actually a duplex or a double. We had one friend who called it a double wide, which, you know, it's not a double wide. But what we did was basically take out some walls here and there and reinforce some other places so that it could flow. And it's kind of a mirror image on both sides throughout the house.
It's a side-by-side duplex, and coincidentally, we knew the owner of the house and we knew her tenant, which was good and bad.
Well, the tenant didn't want to leave. And he was our very, very
he was a good friend.
dear friend.
And he thought when we bought the house that he would just stay here as a renter, and we had to say no, and then it was not a fun situation. And then the owner was absolutely hilarious. She's no longer with us, but man, did she have a great wit. And I do have a lesson in when you're taking somebody else's house and you're renovating it, do not show them mid-renovation. She looked at, we'll show you the bar that we have. It was an old bathroom, and she horrified that we got rid of her tiles. So I'll never do that again. Well, let's wait till the finished product happens and then show the prior owner what we did.
If you want to have them over at all.
Yeah, they were great though. One thing I do love about this house, it's interesting when we entertain, people come straight back here. This is where the bar is, and that's the first thing people want to do is have a drink. So this room becomes the most crowded, packed room in the house. But it's great because everybody, if people don't know each other, they end up they're so closely tight together that they end up all having to talk to each other, which is really a good icebreaker, actually.
As far as the renovation of the house is concerned, there were closets that divided this apartment from this apartment. So when we removed the closets, we actually ended up with a nice little inner foyer here. So this is the bar foyer. And if you look at these columns, I had eyed these columns for years, and they also came from Mac Maison. They're 18th century Italian, and they look like, they just reminded me of creme de menthe parfaits that I had as a child. I probably teethed on those creme de menthe parfaits, and so that's one of my favorite after dinner drinks over ice, so I thought it would be perfect for the entrance of our bar.
Now, why don't we go into the bar? So as I think I mentioned earlier, the house has a duplex. This was a bathroom, and we did not need to have two bathrooms across from each other. What's the point? We had plumbing, so why not have a real bar? And boy, I love this bar. It is a fun room. It's a little over the top, but why not, right? So Quinn, actually, we call this our eBay ancestor. He found this for steel, and I love the portrait. I think it's just beautiful.
I like the waistcoat.
Me too.
The waistcoat is really good.
The blue and white stripes.
Yeah, our house is actually full of eBay ancestors, is what I call them, because you know, when you move from a 9-foot ceiling house to a 14, you suddenly have to expand your art and make it fill the space. This also came from Walker Ronaldson, the chandelier. It's a Baccarat chandelier, and we purchased that from him.
And sometimes when it comes to collections, you can see we have lots of them. We like cocktail shakers. This one's beautiful, the green one. I love that one. And Quinn, one time, we went to Paris and we went to the flea market there, and then he started collecting barware, and now it's everywhere.
I call them bar toys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of these are like Aesop's fables, and you can use these for cherries or for olives.
The one I like the most is this. What is it? A dragon? It's a sailboat and a corkscrew.
It's a Viking.
Oh, it's a Viking.
Ship.
Yeah.
And this ice bucket, I love. This commemorates the age of exploration, you know, on ice. You know, the polar areas. So there's a bear and a little explorer. Well, I like creme de menthe over crushed ice, but that's after dinner.
Yeah, that's after
Martinis,
dinner.
I guess we love, and
champagne, and we like to have interesting champagne glasses. I don't know where you found these, but these are beautiful. They're sexy.
These are really fun because they're 1930s. I got these at Worthmore Antiques from Gayworth. Mm-hmm. And you drink and you think you're done. If you hit your head back just a bit more, you end up with a big splash in your face. So we always have to warn guests
people
that this part right here contains some champagne also.
Yeah.
I love this silver. This is from the first class part of the Normandy, and the designer Luc Linnell designed these pieces. So I've been collecting these over the years. Ice buckets, and you'll see in the dining room more Luc Linnell. We have some knife rests that are from the first class cabin in the Normandy. Well, the house developed a lot from our previous residence. We had a lot of furniture from there, but I would say overall the style is what is known as Swamp Palazzo style, and Rosemary James is a decorator and a very dear friend of ours who helped us through my residence in the French Quarter and other houses. And Swamp Palazzo style is just a style that is characterized by exaggerated elegance and antique and new fabrics, continental furniture, and it's perfect for this subtropical climate. Patina is something that we live with in New Orleans. Hurricane after hurricane, you're going to have patina. There's no having a perfectly straight line or straight surface anywhere. So it just lends itself to Swamp Palazzo style.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a decadence in a good way. Okay, welcome to the library. This is a little entertaining room. The first thing I want to point out is, well, the beautiful bookcases were already here when we bought the house, which was fantastic. It's Louisiana cypress. They are magnificent, and I think the owners of the house in the 80s put these in, and they're worth keeping. No,
They were actually antique dealers. Blackamore Antiques
Yeah.
was the name of their shop. So they put in the bookcases, which are Louisiana cypress, and we also have this mantle that they put in, which is a nice neoclassical copper mantle that's pretty. So we had to figure out what are we going to do in this room, add more cypress. One decorator actually said we should paint the cypress beige, and then we can add some other bookcases. But I don't know, I came up with another idea. You want to?
Oh yeah, one thing I love here in the room, and it softens the room up, is the fabric on the walls. It's men's corduroy trousers, and it feels so good. Everybody wants to touch it whenever they're here, and we have to kind of move their hand away. But it adds such a good dimension to the room. I really love it, and love the way it feels. I do touch it.
Well, I kind of, even though it's New Orleans, believe it or not, in the wintertime, it's a very damp, cold. I've had students at the hospital tell me Montana is warmer than New Orleans when it's really cold. And so I wanted a winter feel to a room, and I wanted this corduroy. I wanted a men's fabric on the wall. And then we got these shades here. These window blinds are made from tartan. I'm on the board of the National Trust of Scotland, and I love tartans. I'm plaid mad. And this is the Loch Ness tartan, and it seemed to look really good with the other turquoise and red elements of the room. So this is my grant of arms. I already showed you the needlepoint I did of them in the sitting room. And here's the actual grant signed by Queen Elizabeth II, Her late Majesty. And then this above is another set of arms that I had done. I was king of a Mardi Gras crew here. And so I wanted a set of arms with supporters, which are two babies up there because I'm an obstetrician. And the artist who did this is Andrew Jameson, who actually did King Charles and Queen Camilla's coronation invitations. So that's kind of neat.
I'm not nearly as grand. I don't have arms.
Well, actually you are, because we're married.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, so I get to inherit all these fancy things he has. But I kind of like having some modern artwork. And the house has pretty much traditional stuff. But here we decided to throw in modern things. This is a Mississippi artist, I think, named Bucci. And
Andrew Bucci.
I love his stuff.
This is his art. He was studying in Chicago in the 1930s, and that's one of his very early pieces.
That one's so cool. That's 50s or 60s, I guess.
Yeah.
And then this big blue piece here is
This is by
abstract.
Paul Tarver, a New Orleans artist, and it's called Maui. And you know, I love the turquoise and the red in it.
Oh yeah, and then hold on, point out these, the falcons. This is a funny story. If you lift it up, it's like it weighs about the same as a lemon.
These look like really
Maybe
precious
less.
birds, but actually, you want to catch?
Yeah. They are. I know they're really light.
They are really. They go on the outside of a house to scare other birds away. And I was dining in London with Nikki Haslam, and we were just walking down the street after dinner, and he found these in a hardware store shop. And he took two, and he sent me two, and he just said, paint them, spray paint them white. And his are on the cover of his book.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty funny. I didn't realize.
I think that pattern on pattern on pattern is something I love. If you look at the really great decorators like Elsie de Wolf and Mario Boada, who was a friend of mine, I mean, they were fearless when it came to patterns. And they view you know, something like an animal print, a tiger, a leopard, as a neutral. And usually they had stripes and chintzes, and we have tartan in here, and these are Suzanis. When we went to Turkey, I went with an empty suitcase, and Michael was like, what's going on? But, you know, I got a lot of Suzanis. I just like textiles, I guess.
Yeah.
These came from my advisor in medical school. His name was Dr. Andrew France, and he was Dean of Admissions at Columbia for many, many years. And these were all from his estate that I was able to pick up. Now, they weren't covered in leopard velvet. Dr. France was a very traditional kind of guy and would probably roll over if he saw what's on them now. But
I think he'd be happy.
I think the leopard looks good.
And we love having his stuff in here, too. It reminds us of him. He was just a pure gentleman, a great guy.
These are interesting too. These are, let me get to this secretary. These are from Turkey, and these are actually beaded. I love anything beaded because of love of surgery and needlepoint, but these are actually Islamic circumcision hats. You know, boys are circumcised at age 6. So I picked up a lot of these over in Istanbul when we were there. So, you know, I guess a lot of our style at our house you could call grand tour, because we're kind of always perpetually on a grand tour looking for travel, education. It's a great way to get educated, but also the souvenirs. The souvenirs are wonderful. So this bust, I got many things from the auction of the estate of Keith Irvine, which was a decorator I knew in New York and admired, and this was from his estate, and I'll show you some things in the music room from his estate too. But he loved these neoclassical gods and goddesses, and we picked up several of those. This is more of the Loch Ness tartan and our arms here. And this was done by Sandra Murray. She's a dress designer in Scotland. I met her through the National Trust of Scotland. And actually, this circles back to Sir Elton John, because he uses the same embroiderer out of Paris. So these are a nice addition to the heraldic interest of the house.
Man.
I mean, I love everything about it. I love
So
the
do I.
dining room. The dining room is the probably center of activity because we entertain a lot. But I like the music room because we use that every day, practicing, entertaining guests there.
I like the room we're in right now. This is my favorite because even on a dark, cloudy, stormy day, it always seems to be sunny and bright. I love it in here. And also we have a library that's really comfortable. It's a cozy place, and I like to just plop down on that big, comfortable couch. All right, so this is the music room. For me, kind of an opulent room. It's not as quite as casual, but the piano bench is nice and comfy, and we have to sit there a lot just to study music and learn our pieces. In fact, we had somebody here. Both of us, admittedly, are suckers for malaprops. And because look, I'm terrible at them too. I'll say something wrong and everybody laughs at me. I think, well, what's the right expression? Well, we had somebody here 2 weeks ago, really sweet lady, and she came into the room and she said, I just love how it's traditional and histrionic. And I thought, okay, I get it. I know what she means. But
it can be histrionic.
It would be something I'd say, I'm sure. Anyway, I do love the room. It's beautiful. I love the green color. And also I like the bits of gold in here. At first, Quinn was going to put this gold, and I thought, oh, it's going to look sort of like Caesar's Palace. But no, I think it is absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I think well, it's another swamp palazzo
For sure.
room, gilded molding. The chandelier's interesting. It's Swedish, and it came from the estate of a San Francisco decorator, Anthony Hale. And I think another good thing about the music room is the sconces here. They belonged to Arturo Toscanini, the great conductor. And then we have other musical interest things here, like composer busts, and this is George Gershwin. I played Rhapsody in Blue a time or two with orchestras, and this is a restoration, a really beautiful restoration music stand. You can see the detail of the sun god there. And in this cabinet, this is a Louis XVI style cabinet, I have a collection of all the music boxes that I got as a child.
Some of them work, don't they?
They all work.
Oh. All right.
Yeah, here's Beethoven and
Playing for Elise.
Haydn. These are from Austria. The wood carving is really nice. But my favorite one is this one. This is Schroeder. Schroeder with the little statue of Beethoven there. And it plays the Emperor Concerto. Another thing I like in this cabinet are the Blind Earl porcelain that I collect. And this is a Dr. Wall Blind Earl porcelain. And the legend has it that the 5th Earl of Coventry had a riding accident and fell off his horse and became blind. So you see this porcelain is raised, the stemware and the leaves, so that he could feel it. I guess it's like a Braille porcelain feature here. So, and I started collecting Blind Earl because my first name is Earl. I really hate the name, but it's a family name. It was a big race to see who was going to get the first boy to name them Earl Quinn, and I came in first. But oh, this is a portrait. Actually, this is where this music room was the living room of Walker Ronaldson, who willed me the portrait of Major General Robert Wilson in the other room. So, but this painting is the Viscountess Hitchingbrook, and she is from, it's the Earl of Sandwich's family. And I spent a year reading the diary of Samuel Pepys, and when this came up at auction, I just had to have it. So I like everything about it. It's a great restoration English portrait, and I think it looks good with this saffron yellow damask. This is Bergamo damask for people who are interested in textiles. So, and these are needlepoint pillows that I've done. This is the crown of Columbia, where I went to medical school. And
We do have a lot of chairs here, but for that very reason. We gather people around when we perform. Or we'll have somebody else, a violinist or another musician, performing here with us with the piano in the background. So it is a great room for music listening, of course.
a lot of the furniture in here was in our living room when we lived on State Street. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of Louis XVI furniture, which that's the influence of Rosemary James, who was our decorator back then. And here's another needlepoint piece that I just finished. Well, the finisher just finished. And I designed this bell pull for the music room. This is a lyre up here, which is a musical symbol. And for those of you who played piano and violin and sang, you will recognize the G. Schirmer edition. And it always has this laurel leaf. So I repeated this laurel leaf here. And then here's an H for Harold, a P for Peeper. And there's that Earl's cornet. So you can always find a way to have fun with Earl if you have that as a name. Well, the piano is a Baldwin Grand, and my teachers in New York, when I was making a Carnegie Hall debut, had an absolute fit when they heard I had an upright that I had been working with them on for years. So they used their influence with the Baldwin Company. I think if you're a student of a Baldwin artist, then you get a discount. So I got this in 1997, which, well, yeah, when I made my Carnegie Hall debut. And the Keyboard Acceptance Corporation, I think it's called, in Iowa, thanks to them, I mean, you make car payments in order to pay these pianos off, but now it's paid off. But we have a fun feature. Why don't you tell them about it?
I want to show you this. I know we've done a lot of name dropping today, so get a net, because this is major name dropping. We have all these pianists. You came up with the idea to do this, to get, we're members of an organization here that has mostly chamber music, but we get one pianist a year, and we try to get a pretty big, famous pianist. And so we always do the cocktail party after the performance for selfish reasons, so they can come and sign our piano. Anne-Marie McDermott, we have Garrick Olson, and we have Angela Hewitt. In the piano world, big names. Anyway, they all come.
And our piano teachers.
Yeah, all
Their
our
names
teachers
are in there too.
Yes, for sure. John O'Connor. Anyway, we love it. It gives a little nice touch to this piano harp. We got work to do on that.
This is another thing, another treasure I got from the estate of Keith Irvine. I think this was in his bedroom, but this is a 18th century French aristocrat, and he's wearing a crown left over from an old Mardi Gras. And then this is a faux marble column that the two came together. So he kind of watches over the performances here in the Louis XVI music room. Yeah, this is a needlework in progress. So I've done the base. Now it has to be upholstered, but it'll eventually look like this. And again, it's a musical lyre, which is being in the music room. It's an appropriate piece for that. So this is up and coming.
All right, now for probably the most used room, don't you think, in the house? Also one of my favorites, the dining room. We'll go this way. All right, welcome to the dining room. I love this room. I'll mention something really quickly about this house. As I think we told you before, it was a side-by-side duplex. So imagine there's a wall going right through the middle of this room, and each apartment had these beautiful, arched windows. And it was sad when we thought, like, well, one architect said, oh, just keep it and make it 2 rooms and that sort of thing. And we thought, this is so sad not to have these 2 beautiful arched windows facing each other and mirroring each other. So we took down the wall, put a supporting beam, and created one big dining room, and no regrets on this. This has been just a fun room, filled with good dinner parties and a lot of entertainment.
At the time that we were doing the house, Mario Boada was still alive, and I asked him to give me some advice on color. And I love apricot colors, but he just told me, get a cantaloupe, cut it in half, and show it to the painter. So we had a decorative painter do this cantaloupe finish, and it's very flattering to everybody's skin. One of the worst dining experiences I ever had in a private home, someone had a high gloss lacquered cobalt blue dining room, and I was young back then, and I saw veins in my head that were not in the anatomy book when I was in medical school. So that's not a very flattering color. I think that pinks and apricots and cantaloupe colors are better by candlelight. So
yeah,
that's how we got this color.
I love the color.
The chandelier is interesting, and it's been through a lot. It's a Swedish chandelier, and it went through Katrina and was across the room from that. And then one day I got a telephone call. I was getting ready to go into the operating room for a case, and the burglar company called, and they said, we see some activity in your dining room. So I went to the dining room, but even before I got to the dining room, there was water pouring out of the front door of the house, and a commode had cracked, and we had just a huge flood. And so this chandelier survived the flood, and this table survived it too, although it needs to be refinished again because it's so scratched up and waxed up from candles. But I mean, we use it all the time. Mm-hmm. And today it's got a tablecloth. Initially, we were going to just use this Ecot tablecloth, but it is hot as the hinges of Hades right now in New Orleans. And so I said, we better cool this down because, when people are getting together, all they want to talk about is how hot it is. So we put this kind of spring green linen tablecloth on top with the napkins, and I think it's cooler now than it would be if it were all in the orange family. And the china is interesting. Here are the arms again, the 232 with the stork, and this is by de Gournay. So, and actually it says the armorial bearings of Earl Quinn Pieper and the year. So de Gournay made this service. Most people know them just, for the wallpaper, but they will do an armorial service. And the armorial theme continues with the glassware. This is William Yoward glass that we had etched with the crest, and then here's a silver goblet with the crest. And the silverware has the crest. This is James Robinson, the Triffid pattern, one of the older patterns. The pattern back in the time when was created, you would go to a gun shop for the knife and then a cutlery place for the spoons and the forks. And then we mentioned Luke Linnell in the bar. These are from the Normandy first class cabin. These are little knife rests, and at each place there's a different little animal. This is a lion, and I think I have a peacock at my place.
We always have a lot of candles because the electricity goes off, and especially during a storm, it goes off like that, and the candles are really good.
One of the funnest dinner parties that you can have in New Orleans is a hurricane potluck dinner, and that's, you're going to lose everything in the freezer, so everybody pulls everything out of the freezer. Christmas, dressing,
Yeah.
I mean, stuff from almost a whole year. And you eat it even if it's in the dark by candlelight. It can be kind of nice, provided your house isn't blowing away.
Bring your best from the freezer and we all sit around and eat it because it's going to go bad anyway. When we have dinner parties here, we always like to put a place card because invariably everybody stands around, where do you want me? So these things are, I think they're attractive, they're kind of fun, and also they are pretty practical.
Yeah, and they keep a dinner warm. I mean, there's nothing worse coming in the dining room with all these people standing around. Where do you want me to sit?
Yeah.
You know, it's right here. And if you're interested in a hot first course, you better sit down.
And after entertaining enough, we kind of realized, at least this is for me, I realized that the best thing to do is to have everybody in the other room having fun, having a drink, go into the kitchen and just pull it out. So I never make stuff where I have to saute or do all this work in the kitchen where people are standing around watching me. I have everything all ready to go. You pull it out of the oven, we'll show you later in the kitchen. We set up the buffet on the kitchen counter. People grab their plates and that's it. It's the best way to do it. I don't want to have people watching me cook and then probably giving me instructions, second guessing everything I'm doing. The dining room table has an interesting story. We have the New Orleans Museum of Art, and each year they have something called the Odyssey Ball, which always has a silent auction. And we needed a dining room table for this house, and Quinn ended up going to the auction bidding on it. No one was there bidding on a walnut dining room table, and you got it for
walnut
steal.
directoire. Yeah, I got it for like a fourth of what it would be if it came in the store. So
the antique store owner was not very happy when she found out what it went for, but we got a good deal on it.
these are ice cream pails, ice pails. These are Coalport, about 1810, 1820. And we really use these. You know, you put ice in the bottom, and you can put your ice cream here, and then the top has ice cream too. And we've illustrated how to use these in our book. We make homemade ice cream, vanilla, peach, strawberry, and then you can put ice up here. So I got these from Bardeth. Stephen Wolf has been advising me on China and porcelain for many, many decades. So, and this is a little interesting for people who are love England. This is the Queen's Silver Jubilee. This is the first time I went to England. So here is a wine coaster. This is from the Queen's Silver Jubilee, 1977. And then from the Golden Jubilee, I have these salt and pepper. These are the crowns on the pillow.
We got to fill them up. We're having a party tonight.
Yeah, you were actually seeing us getting ready for the party, for the dinner party tonight. So, and if you come in the kitchen, you can see how we prepare for a dinner party. Okay, so whenever we're preparing a dinner, these are menu cards that we use. And again, here's the stork. And actually, here's a stork that's holding the card. And, you know, they're elegant and they're formal, but actually they make having a dinner party foolproof because you don't forget things. I mean, we've had dinner parties before where we forgot to bring something out of the oven and people went home. So this tells you what we're having tonight, watermelon gazpacho, which we'll put in the tureen over here. Everything is laid out so there's no panic at the last minute when people are walking through the door. And then we'll have a West Indies salad. Shrimp remoulade will go in this clam. This clam is fun. I got this at Au Bain Marie in Paris and packed it in my suitcase. What else are we having? Prosciutto, wrapped asparagus, that'll go here. And rice, an almond rice will go here. And we always lay out a bunch of utensils in case something goes wrong. Here's a bread basket. Again, it's all ready to go. And dinner's not for another six or 7 hours. So.
Got a while. We have to have a little bit of color in this white room, and so we have a pistachio-colored ceiling, and then we kind of use green things, green glass.
Here's a green lantern, actually. This is a Portuguese lantern from Mac Maison that we got up the street.
Uh-huh. And then one good thing I like about our garden is we can clip a lot of stuff. We can clip palmetto leaves, ginger, and here, banana stalk just fell over. It was so heavy, and that you can use it for decoration. And then I hope they ripen and we can make banana bread or something with it because they are edible. They're good bananas.
Now, if you'd like to follow me, I'll show you where we collapse upstairs after a dinner party.
Okay, we've got the guest bedroom. What do you call it? You call it the
Well, the
Windsor room?
Windsor room, because the bed hangings are Queen Victoria's summer portieres from Windsor Castle. You see Windsor Castle and the V are Queen Victoria. And I got them, I think I got them on eBay. And I have a wonderful woman who's a seamstress on the other side of the Mississippi River who took them, and she was thrilled to have this as a project, but I mean, they were really tattered in places, so she carefully folded them without damaging the integrity of the fabric. So just to expose the best parts of the summer portiere. So it makes bed hangings. And then I had inspiration from John Fowler in his hunting lodge for these pelmets and curtains. And actually the curtains over the windows have a Nikki Haslam fabric, and this blind, summer blind, well, blinds that comes in different colorways were associated with the pelmet and the hangings in John Fowler's hunting lodge as well. So that was a nice part about fitting up this room. And most of the things in this room have to do with our love of England and Oxford. These are some gowns of Oxford students and Oxford dons. I spent 3 years at Oxford getting my degrees. And then also there's a lot of royal family memorabilia, Queen Victoria plates and commemorative mugs. And then I have a little collection of toy soldiers. These are, you can see the gilded coaches in there. That's Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and George VI. And this is Queen Elizabeth. And here's another gilded carriage and coaches. I don't know, there's all kinds of little trinkets here. Here's actually Dr. Freud and his sofa. Here's Babar, and here is the Hound of the Baskervilles, all the characters. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and the Hound.
I think you do most of that stuff. And,
Yeah, but Michael keeps me in line. Michael's a good editor.
Yeah. And he always tells me, I've learned so much about furniture. I had no idea who Louis XVI had style. Had a different period style than 15th. And that makes me laugh because this is a French piece in this big English room. And it's a vitrine, right?
Yeah, vitrine.
And this was another fundraiser where you got this. And we have this friend who said, well, that looks like a French popcorn maker. I had to laugh at that. That was the best. Is that what?
So it's, we teasingly among the two of us refer to it as the Louis XVI popcorn maker, but it's a vitrine. Mm-hmm. This is another decoupage project. This is, it's Victoria. Since this is a Victoria bedroom, I found these Victoria paper dolls. So here's Queen Victoria with all her little outfits. And I did this damask stencil. And then I love using stamps also to decoupage with. So these are Queen Elizabeth stamps on the inside.
She wasn't beheaded, I'm afraid.
Okay, welcome to my bedroom. This is a cozy bedroom that I like to use particularly after a tough night at labor and delivery. And as far as the construction is concerned, I eliminated a window that was here, so it could be a little darker during the day if I have to sleep during the day, which I do from time to time. And these are my eye masks that I can wear so that the sun coming from this side is which sun?
Actually, you get the north. I get the south.
Yeah.
That's not
so
it's
a little darker, which I need if I need to catch up on some rest. But this is a neoclassical bedroom. I guess it's kind of my grand tour fantasy. A lot of intaglios are here that I've collected over many, many years. Some of them are really nice, really fine, and others are, for instance, like these. This is one of my favorite. This is just a kitchen magnet of the Trevi fountain, which I think is a scream. And these are, I had the contractor do these closets on either side of the bed. This is kind of an imitation of the Duchess of Windsor's bedroom in Paris, where she had closets on either side of her bed with the bed recessed. And these open. This took a lot of work with the contractor to get him to do what I wanted. But anyway, these are nice closets for, suits, and then on the other side for black tie stuff. This is a screen that was from Rosemary James in my French Quarter apartment many moons ago. And it's based on a Renaissance lace, actually, that is stenciled on here, and then the finish is gilded. And then these are just collections of Venetian masks. New Orleans is a carnival city, much like Venice, and so we have our share of Venetian masks. This is a really good example of a artisan in the French Quarter who, has sadly passed on, but, what a great artisan he was. This is a neoclassical burled cabinet here with ormolu mounts, caryatids, and other swags and flourishes, and it's my cabinet of curiosities, I guess. It has a lot of shells that I've collected over the years, and books and different biblio that I like. Again, a lot of things that I've collected over the years, family pictures of Michael and me. And this wall here has about, I think one time I figured out it has 5 centuries of art. The top is the oldest. Those are 17th century friezes of putti. And this is another old painting. This is 18th century putti. Usually putti that are behaving badly are the ones that interest me. And then it also has some drawings, etchings, more intaglios, just more of the grand tour sort of things.
Okay, I know Quinn talked a lot about the interiors of the house because that is his expertise, but my favorite parts are outside, and I'm going to show you my palm garden. This is what I wanted. I was obsessed with palms, and I wanted to have a variety of them, and I got what I wanted. Let me show you. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Champagne, why not? Homeworthy, you can't feel the heat and humidity right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry you can't feel it to know what we suffer through in the summer in New Orleans. But with the heat and humidity grow palm trees, and I love the variety. We have windmill palms, we have rufous palms, typical Louisiana South palmetto trees. We've got Queen Anne palms and monstera going on, and we have banana trees. And the best thing about banana trees is it really does grow bananas. The stalk growing right there over the bamboo.
Gladiator was about 800 pounds and kept sinking, so we had to build this little folly to support it. And because we live on a swamp and soft earth, it's not surprising that it kept falling. So that actually has a foundation, and the Gladiator is in a new happy place, which he enjoys.
We sit out here October, November, February, March, April, May. All pretty good then. It's just the heat, the summer. It's pretty bad. Home to me is a place where we can have friends over, and a place where we can just watch TV, chat, have a drink, and where everyone feels relaxed. I mean, we do entertain kind of formally, which I think is fun, and people enjoy getting dressed up once in a while and sitting down to a nice dinner, and they always seem to have a good time. No one minds putting on a blazer unless our AC is not working too well, which happened 2 weeks ago, and it was no fun. No blazers that night.
Yeah, I guess for me, home is a refuge and a cocoon. It's a nice place to wake up and a nice place to return at the end of a busy day. It's very comfortably situated, and I was reading the letters that Chopin wrote because I learned Chopin Concerto No. 1, and he said at one point, "I'm going to create a new world for myself." And he was probably referring to his music, but he was pretty fastidious about his home surroundings and environment as well. So I think that it's about creating a world for yourself.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Eric.
And I'm Nell. Welcome to our home in Baltimore. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Eric Somerville. I've spent the second third of my career in social impact and currently working on a project in affordable and workforce housing.
Hello, I'm Nell Somerville, and I have an event firm here in Baltimore called Stonehill Hospitality.
So we are in Maryland, in Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland, in one of the mill villages, actually called Dickeyville.
It's a historic village, and I think it was established in 1772.
We have an old house problem. I guess over the past 5 years, we've moved, several times. We probably moved 5 times in the past 10 years. They've all been older homes. I think we first moved to Baltimore, and our home was like 1840, another mill village. Moved to a 1920s, like Italianate, stucco, terracotta condo building. It was great. And then we were really attracted to Dickeyville. And first home was built in 1809. And now we moved down the street, another old home here, just with just in a beautiful community that we love, and we love architecture and design, so it's suited us well.
And we literally moved 10 houses down the street in the same village. The neat part about how we found this home is we were friends with the people that owned the home. And Dickeyville is such a charming, unique part of Baltimore on the west side of the city. And our friends wanted to also find homes in the village. When our friends were listing this home, they gave us the listing and said, well, let us know if you have anybody that would be interested in the house. And it was in the middle of COVID. Eric said, babe, I think we should look at this house. We had just moved 2 years prior down the street. And actually, again, like the room that we're in, our friends Michael and Steve would host the coffee hours for the village. And we sat right in this space, and Eric said, babe, why don't you come down and see the house with fresh eyes as if it was going to be ours. This is a forever home. It was just it was very lucky that our friends gave us the listing first, because it would have been a bidding war. It was a really good fit for us.
So welcome to our sunroom. We end up spending the majority of our time here. It was a big space when we purchased the home, and we were just thinking about how do we create the most, really warm space that could accommodate, friends and family when they have them over. You can see I think this room is a great example of our kind of the meshing of both of our aesthetics. This is one of my favorites. This is actually Thai silk. And I spent some time just south of Bangkok, Thailand, in 2003. And so when I first came in contact with Jim Thompson, who kind of revitalized the Thai silk trade. And Nell and I spent a lot of time at antique shops, and we were out in, I think it was Culpeper, Virginia. And I randomly went up some dusty stairs to the second level of this antique shop. And I saw this piece, and what caught my eye is when I saw, the Jim Thompson signature. And I was like, oh, this is just amazing. And so, we love the color. It kind of takes me back to a really special time in my life. And actually, it was the first piece I've ever gotten framed. When Nell and I met, I probably was graduating from posters on the wall. And so this was one of my first framed pieces, which is really nice. So when we moved into the home, our friends had a massive vinyl collection. And so, this was white at the time. We recently had it painted, but every cube was almost filled with vinyl. And we do have some vinyl to talk about, but if you think about who's Nell and Eric, you can really get a sense by spending some time over here. We love to cook, and so from cookbooks you have everyone from Barefoot Contessa, Lee Brothers, White Dog Cafe. For our friends in Philly, Michael Solomonov's proprietor of Zahab and many restaurants. I know Martha Stewart's here somewhere. So Ghetto Gastro, Black Power Kitchen is one of our new finds, which is kind of fun. We also, we like art. And so if you make your way through here, we've been to the 30 Americans exhibit, and this is a really great book. One of our good friends, and we have several friends who are artists here in Baltimore, many that you'll find in kind of the city of artists, and this is all about Baltimore artists. and a Baltimore artist that we're friends with, and I think the entire world probably knows her, but a dear friend, Amy Sherald. We knew Amy when we first moved to Baltimore in 2008, and the world knows Amy for her amazing paintings, as well as the portrait that she did of Michelle Obama that was in the portrait gallery. So when we can, we'll go to all of her exhibits and her openings. Went to the one in New York City, went to the one in London. I know there's one coming up in San Francisco. The vinyl, we do have some vinyl. I mean, everything from Dolly Parton to Frank Sinatra to Herbie Hancock to M.F. Doom to Fela Kuti to Wes Montgomery. I mean, you can name it, as well as opera. And so the majority of it was inherited. We inherited from Nell's mother, who had a friend who had a huge collection. And so, I mean, these are just great pieces. You just grab anything, right? Here's B.B. King. As I mentioned, it's extremely kind of eclectic. I mean, they're all in alphabetical order. The Drifters. These are names, I mean, 50s, 60s, 70s, just great collection, as well as some sets. So it really encompasses everything we're about, I think, from other books, everything from Elizabeth Wilkerson cast, to, I'm sure there's a Bible in here, to the Bhagavad Gita, Kebra Nagas. So it's really reflection of kind of who we are individually and as a couple. And now, if you look over in the lounge area, this, I think we spent a lot of time going to antique shops and, on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, or I think it's Cherish and other sites. And there's a local antique shop called Wishbone Reserve here in Baltimore. And when we saw this Killam rug here, we just fell in love with it. One, we needed a rug that was really going to frame the majority of this room. We wanted something that would really complement the colors, and it was perfect. When we saw it, we knew it, and it just really fell in place rather well. I have to point this out. This is bronze casting, and Nell was a arts major, and so this was a piece that she has created when she was at Ripon College in Wisconsin. And this is actually a piece from a student at MICA where Nell worked as an events planner. So it's just a fun space. So, and this is really cool. So, we moved a lot, and I think this was 3 homes ago. We moved into a beautiful condo in Baltimore, and we were about to throw away just like what appeared to be a stack of papers. And I don't know why I took time to really just kind of flip through it, but we came across old sheet music, and it was actually, Bing Crosby's like sheet music that was actually signed by some really kind of interesting folks from his past. And so we have this pretty big collection. We've tried to do a little research to kind of find out who are the signatures here, but it's, again, a really kind of fun piece that we had an opportunity to kind of hold on to. It's always nice to have pictures of family in your home. We opted to, we do have some amazing portraits and old photographs, but our immediate family, grandparents, godchildren, siblings are all kind of captured here. So this is a kind of nice, just kind of homage to family. It's on our wedding day in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And this is, we just found this recently. Whoops. And that's of my mother with her dogs. And this was in New Jersey.
Eric did an amazing job talking about the living room. I just want to point out one other artist. This is another one of my students from MICA, and this was sold at Art Walk. People always think it's like an amoeba, but I actually gave her these beads, and she made this beautiful, beautiful beaded work. And she was an apprentice of Joyce Scott, who is an incredible artist here in Baltimore. And then I can't let you pass this wall without talking about the baby silver. We just helped Mom downsize And if you want to come really close, this is my baby cup as a child. And it was tarnished beyond recognition. So that's my maiden name. And we found all of these wonderful trinkets. And then I collect antique baby rattles. This is a merman. This is the teething side, and this is an actual whistle. Little sterling silver bells. Isn't that darling? So when we have our little godsons come over, it's really fun, and we can't wait as the kids get bigger, but this is a nice little short spot. And then it's kind of neat. When we bought this house, it was very white. Everything was painted white. It was very gallery-like. Our friends had these incredible museum quality lights. They had an incredible textile collection. And we bonded over our love of art, which was really neat. And so they had this blue light, Eric, is that right? It was sort of like the type of bulb so that it wouldn't show up orange. The reds would really come out blue. So there were pin-spotted art on the walls, which was really neat. But of course, we wanted to make it our own. So we painted the vinyl library this navy blue, and then we wanted to delineate this giant space and make this the dining room. Their television was over here, but again, classic 80s with the skylight. I said, my gosh, this would be the perfect place for a dinner table. The dining room used to be in the main room that you walk in, but I knew immediately this should be the dining room. And Eric talked about the vintage rug from Wishbone Reserve in Baltimore. We also found these vintage lights and had them installed over the table to make this space feel like a dining room. And I think it really works. And lunches here, you're come at the perfect time because the light is so beautiful. But this skylight, peak 80s, 1989 edition here. But we just love it so much. The other thing that we inherited from my mom when she downsized was this incredible sideboard. You'll see later in the living room, this is my great-grandmother's piece, and it was custom made for her. And I'll show you on the back a detail that I really want you to see. If you could come to the back. It says on the back, made for Mrs. George Taylor, 1930, by Deneau, from Deneau. So this was custom made in Memphis, Tennessee for my great-grandmother in the height of the Depression. They were, I'm telling you, they were bargain hunters. They had to have been. It's really funny. They really supported people and artists, which leads me perfectly to this beautiful painting. Working at MICA, I just had the most incredible experience working with artists and having artists work in my office. But we've befriended this local artist, Katie Pumphrey, and she has let us loan. This is on loan from Katie. She needed space in her studio. I said, well, we've got a giant wall that's just waiting for a giant piece. So this is called Fresh Squeezed. Katie Pumphrey is the artist that just did a 24-mile swim in the Baltimore Inner Harbor from the Baltimore Bay Bridge to the Inner Harbor. And I was there waiting for her, whistling as loudly as I could. It was incredible. So I think I come by that befriending artists naturally from my great-grandmother who had this custom piece done. But again, this buffet is set up so that we can have friends lunches. I've actually set this up for, if you want to come closer here, my book club is coming. I have another artist friend. If you want to go tight, I have to show you. I had this artist custom make these place cards. We are reading the book Horse by Geraldine Brooks. And the artist was so specific that she even made the white socks on this famous horse. When I was in high school graduation, my first little heron, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. When I graduated from high school, my great aunt gave me this and it started my obsession with heron. So people know that I love heron. I love the heron bunnies. And one of my friends, when I was sort of in a rough patch, said, "You're a unicorn," and gave me this beautiful unicorn. We got them for our wedding. There's an amazing vintage store, antique store called the Turnover Shop. There's some times where I can't pass up a great deal. So this was kind of a splurge recently, which was really fun. And yeah, they're just some really incredible stories. My aunt knew how much I loved Rothschild bird, Lady Rothschild bird. This is a sweet story about Lady Rothschild was in her garden and lost her necklace, and then went to find that the birds had put her necklace in the garden. So this is a really famous pattern from heron, and I love the little pieces that always have the necklace inside. Lady Rothschild bird. And I freaked out with my aunt, and she said, "Well, you love it so much, I want you to just take it." So she gave us that for our wedding, which my mother was horrified that I said yes, but it was such a nice gift, I couldn't pass it up. I come from a long line of artists. My grandmother on my dad's side was an artist. My aunt, who I've always called an aunt, but she's a cousin, my cousin Harriet did this painting for my grandmother. When my grandmother passed away, I said, "Please, please, please let me have it." Her water lily is incredible. And then she did a painting of me as a child upstairs, which was just the most incredible gift that she gave everybody in the family. It was so incredible. But yeah, it's kind of neat. There's a long line of artists on both sides of the family, which I'm very lucky. Oh, and then this is a fun one. Eric and I, in our adventure going to New Orleans, this was the first, the first high rise in New Orleans. And this is literally this little artist in Jackson Square. We've never had it framed. It's just so cute and so, I don't know, I just love it. And it reminds us of that wonderful first trip to New Orleans together. We've jokingly said that we should have a Wishbone Reserve pop-up here because a lot of the pieces, this cabinet is from Wishbone, the lights are from Wishbone, the rug is from Wishbone, and that étagère is also from Wishbone. And this is another one of my collection. This is really kind of funny. I have a china problem. We have an old house problem and a china problem. My grandmother, oh yeah, I'm glad I brought this. This reminded me of something. This is my grandmother's pattern that when she passed away, all of the plates were sent to some, I think they gave them away to it. I'm not sure how it happened, but I was so sad that I didn't get my grandmother's china that I went and found it somewhere else, and it was the most affordable set. This was another COVID purchase. And if you want to follow me over here, during COVID, if you're an event planner and you haven't had a party in a long time, you're kind of jonesing for a party. So one of the plates from that set broke. And there's another amazing artist in Baltimore called The Broken Plate. And I was sitting in the hospital recovering from appendicitis thinking, I'm dying to have a party. It was the Queen's Jubilee. And Juliet, I commissioned her to make these napkin rings out of my grandmother's china. And again, Eric will show you in the kitchen. We love Basquiat, and I kind of wanted to have that punk element. It's so feminine. It's like the pink, pink, pink roses. And I wanted this sort of Basquiat crown to represent that edginess of the punk vibe in London with the Queen's Jubilee. So I had a wonderful luncheon. It was also the year I turned 50. But yeah, this is another incredible collection of our napkin rings. This goes with our silver service. We have a partridge obsession, partridge in a pear tree. And then I will set these out for my book club. We have a fox in the neighborhood that keeps visiting us.
The room that we're in right now, this sunroom, is definitely, my favorite Probably we're spending the most amount of time here. I mean, whether it's coming and turning on the news over a cup of coffee, whether it's, families coming over, we'll end up, watching movies here. Of course, when we have the dinners, and Nell does an amazing job setting up the tablescape and really creating really memorable moments for our families. And, you can also look outside, right? You can see the water, from this room. I can access, the entire patio. And it's just great. This is where I Netflix binge, this is where I fall asleep sometimes. It's just a really great, comfortable place to be.
Okay, now we're gonna go into our living room. We are not afraid of color. When we were looking to change this room, again, I said that most of the house was white. We wanted it to feel like our home, and this blue was so happy in the dark, in the light, and people come in and say, oh my gosh, you've got to tell me the color. And I could probably talk about all of the paintings, all of the artwork, but I really want to talk to you about this incredible heirloom piece that was in my grandmother's home when I was little. And when my grandmother passed away, my mom said, did Mother ever tell you she wanted you to have something? I said, yeah, she wants me to have Grandmother Talo because I was named for her. So this is my great-grandmother, Nellie Kreider Talo, and it's so funny because we have the same hairline. People think we kind of look alike. This was painted in 1935, again, in the middle of the Depression, by, if you want to take a very close look at this incredible signature, this is by an artist called Charles Frederick Nagel. He is in the Smithsonian Museum. I believe he's at the American Art Museum. He was a prolific painter. He was 85 years old when he painted this. So being friends with Amy Sherald and thinking about the National Portrait Gallery and her connection there, and I went to school at American for a semester in the arts program, and having the understanding of provenance and history and art history, to see that this artist was in the Smithsonian, it was such an exciting revelation. My great-grandparents started a paper company in Memphis, Tennessee, where my family's from. And I went to visit my uncle, and I said, well, where's grandfather? And he said, he's in the garage. I said, Uncle Chip, we have to get grandfather out of the crate in the garage. And I told him about this famous artist, and we literally uncrated him and hung him in the dining room that day. Nobody knew that this artist was famous. So it was a really cool experience. And we've had her restored, but when they were looking, they started taking the paint off, and they said, we actually think this dress might have been lavender. I said, don't do any more. I want it just the way it is. But it's very interesting if you see the detail. The artist that was restoring it, I said, oh my gosh, I've lived with it this way for so long. If it all of a sudden became a lavender dress, I don't know what I would do. So this is a very special, special piece. And again, so much of this room was inherited, and a lot of the brown furniture, the mahogany, was in my mom's house and something I'd always wanted. When we downsized, Mom is now in a retirement home, and we were sort of talking about the things that we wanted from the home. And I said, Mama, I have to have the lyre table because I was an AKO at Ripon College, and this beautiful lyre table, this library table, is very special to me. I'll never forget the president of our sorority. Her mother found her these lyre bookends, and it's just something that I'm still very close with my sorority sisters, so it's really a neat piece to have. And again, this room doubles as my office. I have a teeny tiny little nook office upstairs, but if I need to spread out, this is sort of where that happens. We have the ability to have our buffets if we wanted to start with cocktails in here and then go down into the dining room table. This is a great place to do that on these two buffets. This is our first house in Dickeyville. When we bought the home 10 houses down, this is called the Gingerbread House. This is the one from 1809, and we believe It was on Fort McHenry and was moved to Dickeyville, and it became the infirmary of the Dickeyville village. We had just moved 2 years before, so it was sort of a crazy move. So my darling Eric had this painting custom made for us. This is a very, very special piece. And if you know anything about history, which is, again, I'm a history nerd, I'm the child of a history professor, you know that the War of 1812 was in Washington, D.C. There's some really cool history there from our family. Dolly Madison took the picture of George Washington off of the wall as the White House was burning and brought it to the Octagon House. And we are related to the Talos from the Octagon House. And so this is why I know the history of the War of 1812 a little bit more than your normal person. But knowing that the War of 1812 was in Washington, D.C., if you know anything about D.C., you know that D.C. was a swamp. And so Wes, in the history of painting this, made the men in the swamp. This painting is called Uniform Choice. And as you can see, they are black men in the War of 1812 that would not have had a uniform choice. So he elevated these soldiers in these beautiful uniforms. And it's so powerful. And we had it framed here in Washington, and it hung proudly in our house for 2 years when we lived down the street, but we absolutely adore it. Isn't that an incredible painting? We've sort of jokingly called this like the ladies' lounge because it's the Nells. So this is Nell Bond. This is my other maternal grandmother, who I'm named for 3 Nells. So this is Bidey, or Nell Bond. This is my mother's grandmother, my great-grandmother. And then Grandmother Talo is my mother's father's mother. So both of my mom's grandmothers are here. And I jokingly told Eric I also have my grandmother, but she's in a crate in the basement because I'm like, we don't need any more white women portraits in this room. I think we got enough. And then obviously we've got Eric's family here as well. He's going to tell you about his great uncle, who we have a portrait of upstairs, but this is kind of a cool picture. And he won a Purple Heart, and we have his Purple Heart displayed down here as well. But one of my most favorite things is the story of my own grandmother, my father's mother, who was a brave entrepreneur. You'll see my grandmother and a very famous person with her. That is Julia Child in the middle, and then Julia's sister Dort, or Dorothy, and my precious grandmother, Mary Frances Averett. And Francie, as we all called her, started 40 Carats in Memphis, Tennessee. She ran a cooking school in the middle of, probably the middle of the 70s, right as Julia Child was writing The Art of French Cooking. My grandmother got to meet Julia Child multiple times. Being a member of the Cherry Bomb Squad is what we call ourselves, I got to meet Dory Greenspan. So Dory has pride of place with Julia. This is kind of a neat book. I collect all these vintage books. But this was actually the French chef cookbook that went with the television program that Julia Child was on PBS, which as a child I watched obsessively when I was younger, and I called her Junior Child. Instead of watching Sesame Street, which I did watch Sesame Street, I stuck around for Junior Child, and I was obsessed. So that love of cooking also started as a child. And so this is sort of an honor to my grandmother and 40 Carats, which is a really, really special part of our history. Eric talked about his first big purchase when we were in the Rappahannock, and he found the Jim Thompson elephant. I was at the Easton Art Fair. I was far too young to purchase this portrait, or not portrait, but to purchase this painting. But I fell in love with it immediately. I love Edward Hopper. I was an art history minor with a fine arts major, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like an Edward Hopper with that solitary guy looking sad. We met the artist, I bought the painting, And he said, oh, this is in Easton, so you can drive down the street. So if I took this off the wall, my girlfriend Mary Margaret and I went and took the picture of the street of this actual place. So it's an actual physical place in Easton, Maryland on the Eastern Shore, which is a really special, special place. This is Freddie the fox. Freddie is a Wisconsin fox. We have fox in our yard, and foxes are really just my spirit animal. And I just adore them. And then I want to show you Eric's grandfather. This is an incredible story, and it's awarded annually for arithmetic. He's the only black child in this, but we were talking about it. We think he was probably in 8th grade or maybe a freshman. One woman in the picture. It's so special. It's probably in 1915, 1920. And then my mom graciously gave this miniature to me before she moved out of her house. And this is one of my most prized possessions. I absolutely love it. This is Robert Taylor, maybe like an 8th great grandfather. And if you know anything about this is your Antique Roadshow girl coming out. This was, when he passed away, this is what his wife would have worn. And that is his hair. It's plaited, as they call it. So it's like that braided hair and that beautiful monogram, that RT. So this has a significance because you go to these historic houses. My parents were both art people or history people, so they drag us to every historic home from here to Memphis, Tennessee, from here to Atlanta. And when I was younger, I was like, oh, not another house. But it was one of these things, you'd see these miniatures, all these, I think they call them memoriams. Okay, now we're joining Eric in the kitchen, who's going to tell us a little bit about these Basquiat-inspired skateboards.
Yeah, so this is a triptych that we purchased from the Barnes Museum. We have a really great friend that is on their leadership team, and during one visit, we've been up there a couple of times. This caught my eye. Love Basquiat, but I've also worked in nonprofits for years, and so the organization that produces these is called the Skate Room. So they advocate for recreation for youth, and they partner with the estates of artists, and they're able to license some of their images from some of their paintings. So this is a really fun triptych that we put in here.
Yeah, I love. And again, there's so much traditional stuff in our house that the edginess of the art kind of tones down the sterling silver and these antique quilts. This is in another Victorian quilt. I feel like Little Women, it's like you can see the silk and the things. It's actually, the silk is shattered. It's so old, but we love it so much. We almost hung it on the wall. The velvet, everything about it is just, it's so graphic. It's timeless. But we couldn't hang it on the wall because they said it was just too fragile. And then we just have this fun bar set up for parties. This is sort of an easy thing, help yourself kind of thing. And using, again, my grandmother's vintage silver. She won the Junior League Garden Club in Memphis in 1954. That's my grandmother, Nancy Taylor. And then I couldn't get rid of Mom's chickens. All of my Junior League cookbooks are here. I was in the Junior League of Washington when I lived in DC for a long time, so that was very fun. I'm in cookbook clubs, I'm in book clubs, and then we have Eric's mother here every Sunday for dinner, and it was her birthday yesterday, actually, so she got her little special happy birthday to you. This is vintage M.H. Hadley from Kentucky. I personally love this pattern. So yeah, we have breakfast in here. This is a very special, and this is a giant kitchen. Our friends that lived here would invite us and we'd have dinner. And again, we've changed it around a little bit, but we love it.
Yeah, it's probably the one room that we have done the least to. It's really been, obviously adding books, some art on the wall, adding a tulip table here. We found, as far as like design in kitchens, if you change the countertop, get a new faucet, that begins to kind of make it yours. In the future, we might do something larger, but we just felt, let's just add a couple of couple of additions in some of our pieces that kind of bring it to life for us.
Right, so we did change the countertops. Eric's right. We changed, it was a very, very mid-century modern white laminate. And again, we beat the heck out of our countertops. So that's a tip that we've done in most of our houses. And put in this fabulous, fabulous sink. And then it's just wonderful to be in Dickeyville and wash the dishes and see everything outside the neighborhood passing by. And now we really should go to the sun porch because the screened-in porch is the most, I think that actually is one of my favorite rooms next to the guest room upstairs.
You know, one of my friends, actually one of our friends' framed it best. Said, being around Nell is like being around someone that's having fun for the first time every time. So you can imagine the boundless energy. So sometimes it's hard to keep up with, but really brings a lot of joy to our family, to our friends. We love to entertain. And she really brings just, that hospitality. I mean, it's shocking that she's worked in hospitality her career, but I would say that's kind of, what I really admire about her.
I admire so much about Eric that it's like hard to list, but he is the yin to my yang. My high energy, Eric sort of calms me down in the moment of getting ready for a party, getting ready for whatever it is. He is the center of the storm, and has this calmness around him no matter what. The screened-in porch is probably one of the places we live the most from the fall all through the winter. During COVID, this was the absolute best respite. Our friends would come over. There's probably too many tables, but we had people come out for dinner. And because it's screened in, it was just this wonderful, spacious place to be with friends during COVID. Another incredible collection that we have, I admitted that I'm a bird nerd. This is my grandmother, Nancy's bird collection. And she befriended the artist in Pickwick, which is a lake community right outside of Memphis, and the artist's name was Neva Boyd. And when we were moving Mom's stuff, this was the one that I put the highest insurance value on because I did not want to lose any of these. They're so precious to me. They're so precious to my mom. I think we lost one petal of one flower, but it's a really, really special. And they are hand carved, hand painted. They're so mid-century mod. When I shared with some friends, they said, oh my gosh, my uncle has the same kind of hand-painted birds. So yeah, Neva Boyd, I looked her up online. I even found one on eBay, this brown thrasher, and it had her name and the type of bird it was. You can tell it's a teeny bit different. This brown thrasher is actually a lot bigger than some of these smaller guys, the chickadees, the cedar waxwings, the flickers, which all come to our yard, which is pretty amazing. And if you look at the bird bath right here, this is Bird Nerd Central. We're going to actually go down into the garden. We're going to show you what the previous owners did so that we don't have to water. We have 3 types of magnolia trees on the property as well, and the birds go nuts for their beautiful, beautiful seeds. And last week I saw the red fox. We think he might live in our hill. All of the ferns come back every single year. We have Johnny jump ups over here. We had to move the hydrangea because the deer are insane and very hungry. And so you can see they've like mowed down the bottom, but I'm going to ask Eric to get some of the taller, this is an oak leaf hydrangea, which will go perfect in my buffet arrangement on the sideboard. Do you want to get one of the taller ones, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
Ooh.
Just 2 of those
piece here?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, babe. And that's it. 2 giant stalks, and that'll make my buffet arrangement. It's pretty great. But now we want to show you the Gwynns Falls River. So this is our backyard that backs up to the Gwynns Falls River and is connected to a 700-acre park. Actually, it might be 1,100 acres. You can see these ruins from, this was a mill village. You can see the people have started building these little rock formations. But this is our backyard, but this is actually a public park. So we don't have to cut the lawn, which is kind of nice. And we have fox and geese and owls were nesting in our backyard. Last year we had 2 baby owlets that the neighborhood freaked out about. It was so incredible. And then again, all of the yard is local, native, sustainable plants that are in the garden. So it all comes back. They all flower at different times. The friends that we bought the house from were just so talented when it came to this yard. We thought it was going to be a little bit easier to maintain. There are still weeds to be picked, but you can see it's a bird haven. We do not have bird feeders anywhere because of the seeds that are produced by the grasses, the seeds that are produced by the flowers, and it's a smorgasbord for the birdies. We have a couple woodchucks that live in the hill, which are a real terror to the neighborhood.
Have there been any design wars as we've tackled our homes? Every single home, every single room, we can come together. But yeah, I mean, I am like, in my former design life, I was more minimal. I love Zen gardens, Japanese architecture. And for the sake of the marriage, I was able to forgo. There will be a Zen cabin in maybe the mountains of West Virginia at some point that'll be fully my design or Maine. But yeah, it's part of life, right? Like you work together. It's our home, and you don't have to do things right away. I think when you look around our home, there's been pieces that we've had like a design sprint. We'll wake up one weekend, be like, oh, let's just do something different with this room, and we'll just run at it. Then other things have just kind of happened over time, and it just works. We figure it out. There's probably a design, war just last week, but we get through it.
Which one? Let's point that out. I feel like that's not, the design war is really not, but that is really funny because Eric, his apartment was so zen and so cool, and like it is, we are maximalists to the limit here.
I've adjusted to colors, pastels, as you can see here.
You were always a colorful, creative person. That's funny. I think our decor style is definitely maximalist, very traditional with a modern sort of edge. We have an incredible art collection that reflects friends of ours, students of mine. I was at MICA for 7 years, so had some incredible experiences working with students. And we also are big vintage, antique, the hunt for the perfect rug, the perfect lights to make a room feel welcome without it feeling too overly designed. Eric is the king at finding a Facebook Marketplace score and driving. He's like, what did you say? It's like,
between have a good Subaru or be willing to rent a U-Haul.
A box truck. We should just own a box truck. Like the amount of Facebook Marketplace finds we found, and our friends are now like, where did you find that? How do you guys find this incredible stuff? We've been very lucky on both sides. We've inherited some beautiful antiques from our family, both sides of the family, and using that brown furniture to our advantage. I've always loved the beautiful inlaid mahogany But again, we don't want it to be so traditional that it's fussy. So I think we've done a good job of balancing that out with our, funky art collection, and finding a $10, hutch from Home Goods that just happens to fit with the whole space. Okay, I really want to show you our Walloon room, which is our powder room that, again, great-grandmother Talo painted both paintings in this room. So this was a painting of the cottage at Walloon Lake that my great-grandparents built in Michigan. Again, they were from Memphis, but when my mom and dad were looking for my dad to go to get his master's, he went to Michigan State, and Mom said, well, of course we can go to Michigan. We love Michigan. It's Walloon Lake. So this was the pink house, and this is the foot. And you can see it's super mid-century. It's very untrained, but the fact that my great-grandmother did this is so special. And then all these little details. This is an Italian toll. I collect Italian toll. These are these metal flowers. And if you want to look at the ceiling, I found this incredible chandelier from the turnover shop here in Baltimore. And my grandmother had one of these in her kitchen. And another fun trick we did was we painted the ceiling pink and matched the table here and the powder trash bin. We stole this wallpaper from the last house down the street because we loved it so much. And then I took the entire collection of my mom's silhouettes from her home and just think it's such a fun detail to have in this very tiny little room.
So welcome to our office. This actually was our guest room, and we were both working remote. My office was in what is now a small bedroom, and this it worked when we thought about it. There's a lot more space. We have the fireplace, and so this is where we work. We have some pictures, some art. I mean, this is actually from our wedding. This is actually our wedding invitations. Nell's really into paper, and so we spent a lot of time thinking about from the font, the script, as well as the quality paper for our invitations, and so we framed it here, which is really nice. This is a nice touch. So you see the horse-drawn carriage. So for our honeymoon, we got married in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we honeymooned up on Mackinac Island. And through some connections, we knew the Musser family. The Mussers had been the owners of the Grand Hotel. And when we were planning for our honeymoon, we, reached out to someone who worked with the Mussers, and we spent a couple of days at the Grand Hotel, which was nice, just as is. The second day we were there, we got a phone call, and the Mussers had arranged for Nell and I to go on a tour of Mackinac Island in an English carriage from the 1800s, that all the presidents that have visited Mackinac Island and Grand Hotel had an opportunity to take a ride in as well. So that was pretty cool. I do want to point out this painting. This is actually, there is a photograph downstairs, I think Nell may have shown you, of my great uncle as well as great aunts and another great uncle. So he kind of served in World War II. He was based in Italy. And this painting was actually a DC painter that was probably painted in the, probably in maybe around the 40s or 50s. But it was installed in the Anacostia Community Museum in Washington, D.C., which is really about civil rights, cultural, and vibrancy of the Anacostia African-American community. And so this was in my mom's house, and now it's here, but it's nice having this in the office. And so over here, this is a picture of Nell's mom. And then if you look down, that's a picture of Nell in the same dress. which is pretty cool.
And this is the painting that my aunt did of me as a child, the artist, my cousin Harriet. This is me when I was little. And then you might also know that we're OG Homeworthy fans. And Allie and I were talking, Ashley, before, and she said I should definitely show this.
I also want to point out something, I guess, it's very serendipitous. This is an ottoman that we brought from the home down the street. But on the walls in that same fabric are curtains that we also brought from the old home, and they fit perfectly. So, you can imagine how we felt being able to take some of the design aesthetic that we liked at our old home and kind of weave it into this new one. So it's been just really, really fun to get work done here. It feels very light and airy, so we enjoy it. And you can also you can see the water from here as well. So in between emails, and I could, get a little bit of zen and relaxation being able to see the water from my desk.
The other cool part about the drapes and this ottoman, we are, again, big thrifters. We love to salvage anything as much as we can. I think we bought 12 yards of fabric for like $120 and have had all of the curtains made. We had a runner, a skirt made for the guest bed when the guest bedroom was here. It's like you really arrive if you can afford a runner around your tall queen bed. But yeah, Eric's point is it's pretty incredible. And my tiny little, this is my craft closet. I love working in this space, which is the smallest room in the house. When I started my business, I was named for 3 Nells: Nell Bond, Nell Taylor, and my great aunt Nellie Taylor Ross. Nellie Taylor Ross was the first woman governor of the United States. And I hang this in my office to remind myself of how brave this woman was. Anytime I get a little freaked out, like, what am I doing? How have I done this? She blazed this trail. So every person in our family is so proud to be related to this woman who lost her husband to appendicitis and was the first woman governor in 1924. So that's kind of a fun little detail. But another fun story is that Homeworthy, Allison Kenworthy, is a dear family friend. I was her youth minister when she was 14 years old. I'm going to show you in the other room some pilgrimage details. But I was an artist, and I would take my travel journal. This is Holy Island. We went on a pilgrimage to Mexico. Allison might remember the mountains outside of our camp. And this was San Juan Capistrano. We did a pilgrimage down in Mexico and built a house for a homeless family. And then, again, I'm the youth minister that cusses. This is my paper porn collection. As an event planner, I love, as Eric said, I love the details of the paper. I'm glad he pointed out the thing about the little carriage and how lucky we were that we got the carriage ride. But this is all of Allison and Michael's details from their wedding, from their baby Grace's announcement, the bridesmaids luncheon at the Georgetown Club, their New York Times. So every single friend of mine that sends me an invite, I then keep the wedding invite, the thank you note, and then everyone thinks I have a great memory. I don't have a great memory. I just reread the cards and remember from that standpoint. So it's a really fun thing. And Allison and Michael's wedding invitation and their menu cards were designed by her friend Inslee. Somewhere in here, look at this incredible thing. I can't put my hand on it right now, but Inslee makes these incredible calendars. So I've collected these Inslee calendars, and I have a couple gifts that are ready to go. But this is just really inspiration for Stonehill hospitality. If I kind of get in a rut, it is a little hoardy, I admit. But my friends on their birthday, they can't believe that I can sit here and pull out the wedding invitation and the thank you note. My friend Kirsty got me into this a million years ago. I just went to a friend's birthday party at the Selgrave Club last week, and this was literally last week, and it was just such a sweet memory. And this was her wedding invitation from 1,000 years ago. So that's kind of a fun detail. Now I think we should show you my favorite room, the guest room. My love of collecting came from my mother. My mom and dad are both historians, and to the point where Eric and I were at my cousin's wedding in Jamaica, and we got the word that we had gotten tickets to Antique Roadshow. My mom was so excited to go to Antiques Roadshow in Michigan that she had every member of the family sign up so that she would get tickets. I'm very, very lucky. Eric and I are in Jamaica, and we got the email, and I called Mom immediately. And every time I talk to my mom on the phone, she's watching Antiques Roadshow. So I was very interested. We also went to thrift stores, antique stores. My mother is Southern, and so she grew up with this very, very traditional aesthetic and respected it, but also sort of was a little bit rebellious. So it was very interesting growing up in that, respect of history, but also having sort of an edge to it. So Mom inherited a lot of the furniture that was passed down. I can't wait to show you some of those pieces. But my love of collecting really came from my mom, and probably inherited from my grandmother, my mother's mother. So Eric said, when we sort of needed the itch to scratch, we didn't want to move, I said, let's make this big room the office, and we made this the guest room. So this just turned out to be, it's very tight, but it's cozy. And I think when you're sleeping away from home, there's something about having a tighter space that makes it feel very comfortable. So we moved the cannonball bed. This is something that's been in our family forever and ever. My grandmother, Nell Bond, nicknamed Bidey, did this quilt. This is one of, these ancient quilts are so incredible. And then one of my favorite things is Eric and I worked in this 5-star hotel in Washington, D.C., so we kind of go nuts when it comes to the amenities. And Eric said we went to Europe for our friend Amy's opening in London, and then popped over to Paris, and I bought these beautiful, lipstick at the Hermes store in Paris, and I'm like, I can't throw away this box, it's beautiful. And it goes with my, Amari collection, so I used it to put the Q-tips in here. So I just thought that was sort of a fun little trick to save your favorite little boxes. We love our orange and brown boxes. And then there's slippers in here and things like that. And then, again, going through my mom's stuff, when we were going through her house, I'm like, this is called a sugar scuttle. So whoever's coming to visit, Katie was here last, so my dear friend Katie. So I put the chocolate-covered espresso beans in the scuttle. And I don't know if you know the story about a scuttle, but a scuttle is the actual scoop that was on a boat. It's called a scuttlebutt. Or a scuttlebutt is the gossip that they were talking about. Well, the scuttle was the scoop. So that was like the original water cooler. So a scuttlebutt is the gossip that was talked about around the water cooler, which is kind of a fun. So all these weird little historic, antique things, they have stories that are attached behind them. So just keep digging into that. It's very fun. This is a biscuit tin, which is so Southern. Most people have cheese biscuits in the South. But we've got like Pedialyte if our friends have tied one on a little bit too hard at one of our parties. And then, a little nuts, things like that, just to make your guests feel very, very taken care of. and more blankets and towels. This is insane, but these are all of the collection that my mom had of her trousseau when she got married to my dad. Look, the tags are still on them. So anybody that has a T in their name still gets these beautiful, beautiful napkins and handkerchiefs as a gift. I grew up loving to host, and even as a child, my family had parties all the time. I come from a long line of party planners, basically. I also belong to the Church of Paying Attention, the Mary Oliver parishioners, where if you are in a space, pay attention to the birds, pay attention to the energy in the room, and not necessarily put out your fanciest thing, but think about the guest that's coming and make them feel really special. I think that's what hospitality is all about. It's making somebody, it's sort of kindness accelerated. Make it comfortable for your guests, and those little details, very Ina Garten, like don't be so stressed out at your party that you can't enjoy it yourself. Have a very simple menu. Peanut butter and jelly in the rain is more fun than, filet mignon sitting uptight at your dinner table. I'm going to take you to our bedroom now. Before we head into the bedroom, I wanted to show you my mother's Kutani and Amari collection. This is something, again, that I can't believe she parted with it before she moved out of her house. But she was ready to get smaller. And these foo dogs are one of my favorite. Foo dogs should always be set up in pairs. They are to, protect you from evil spirits. So the fact that it's at the top of the stairs moves the evil spirit right back down, which is kind of a fun thing. We also have foo dogs on our lamps that are right outside of the door. I don't know if I really believe in any of that stuff, but I just think it's really neat. This is a beautiful painting that my mother-in-law also did. So we have all of these artists in our family, and it's really pretty special that we've got them all over our home. And now we're going to go into the bedroom and see a little bit more. Okay, welcome to our bedroom. Again, this was the older part of the house. And when we came to visit, we couldn't get over how big this room was. And our friend had built all these built-ins. And so we actually took one of the only things we did to this house was take the built-ins out. And it's just turned out to be great. We obviously have a thing for blue. We have a blue living room, a blue bedroom, and a blue guest room. This one just feels sort of this cozy French blue that we love. Lots of vintage finds here. Another turnover shop. We just brought this big blue chair back from my mom. We love zebras. I have a zebra mask over on the other side. This was my grandfather's bedroom set. This is it's so old it has ivory. I don't even think you can sell anything with ivory in it anymore, but it's been in the family for a million years. And just to modern it up, I found these incredible poles that I just thought they were so funny. And then again, another cousin in my family is an artist, my sweet cousin. Her first name is Talo from our family. Her grandmother Talo in the big painting, she was both of our great grandmothers. So she's my sister cousin, and it's wonderful. We have a painting of hers in the kitchen as well. And then this is sort of my pilgrimage corner. I sort of alluded to the fact that I was Allison's youth minister and brought her on a pilgrimage to England, one of our first pilgrimages from Christ Church in Georgetown. And a lot of the details in this little, I guess it's an old display case. This beautiful mahogany display case has a lot of memories, from the Episcopal prayer beads to thumb prayer beads. One of the first collections I ever bought from the Paris Flea was that crucifix. And then there are Kisi pennies from Gallery Africa in DuPont Circle, which was another first thing. And then I've got this haven of bunnies. My little blue bunny collection is one of my faves. And this precious guy is praying. My sweet friend Katie just gave me the prayer bunny, which is so precious. So this is sort of a nod to the pilgrimage. This is a swallow from San Juan Capistrano, the painting I just showed you. That was when we went to Mexico. So this is a pretty special place. The other neat thing is that Eric actually did this brass rubbing when he was traveling. So that's a really special thing, that Eric had a brass rubbing, and we have 2 other brass rubbings in this room. Again, I almost feel like she's like the famous great-grandmother, Grandmother Talo. We call them the Thai ladies, but this was Siam when she went to Siam back in the day. So this is a brass rubbing from Thailand. And again, Eric lived in Thailand, so it's so special that my family had this connection. And then this monk is so special. I grew up on a street where our Episcopal vicar lived on the same street, 2 houses down. I was a cradle Episcopalian, and Father Poyser did this brass rubbing. So this room is there's not a book in the space. It is a resting place, a prayerful place. My grandmother did this beautiful needlepoint. I don't think it's Daughters of the King, but it's just such a special, special needlepoint that she had in her home. And then our zebras, this was a wedding present for my mom and my stepfather, and we've kept it intact somehow, this beautiful zebra. And then finally, this giant piece and the bed. The bed was also from Wishbone Reserve, our favorite vintage shop down in Baltimore. This giant piece, this unbelievable bamboo piece, I'm in the Thrift with the Makerista Club. She's been on Homeworthy. Gwen's amazing. When you are a member of the Thrift with the Makerista Club, you get to be in a private Facebook group that shows you what's coming up for sale in the neighborhood. And again, Eric and his box truck joke, he immediately, I cannot believe we found this piece. And I can't even tell you the price because it was ridiculously affordable. I don't want people to be mad. It was so incredible. But this, it's an old house with 2 teeny tiny closets. Eric is 6'4". This is all Eric's side, so it's pretty neat. And then again, a vintage trunk that was in my grandmother's house forever and ever. It feels like all of those vintage quilts could have gone in there. And then this sort of bamboo. We like a little chinoiserie here and there. And then finally, our wonderful ML did the pillows. We've had, this is another great trick. If you have really beautiful old fabric, find a seamstress and have them make something special for you. This is an old Laura Ashley fabric that ML had made into this giant bolster pillow. And then I just found this fabric online and asked ML to do the same with this as well.
Home for us is a place to express our creativity, a place to welcome friends and family, a place to rest, a place to just, enjoy the precious moments, of life. I mean, really, we spend a lot of time. I think we both had a past in hospitality. I don't know, maybe we're foodies. We've kind of been there, done that. Like, Nell is an amazing cook. And like, if I'm up against the wall, I can burn. So like, we can spend a lot of time in home and have all of our needs really tended to. And so it's everything for us, I think.
Sweet. Home means to me, I agree with Eric, like home is a place to rest. We work very, very hard. My job is very physical, and to be here and have this enveloping place, every surface is comfortable. There are different rooms to have places of reflection. I love to read. I love to cook. We have a wonderful kitchen to be able to make these meals to invite people over. We both travel a lot, and there's something about this home specifically, watching the birds, listening to the owls. It's the bird song that welcomes us home too. And I know that sounds super nerdy, but I am like a #1 bird nerd. And to have, to be traveling so many places, and then to have, to recognize the bird song in your own backyard, there's something really special about that. And a cardinal just landed on the bird bath as I'm talking about it. It's amazing.
And I'll say for us home, at least our home, we welcome folks that are also looking to get better at cooking, because we have quite the cookbook selection, which you'll see in many rooms. But it just makes life so special when you can just look to the right, grab some amazing cookbook and find a favorite recipe or try a new one.
Yeah, it's very neat. And what Eric's saying, he can burn on the grill and not burn the food, but burn as in he's really good at cooking.
I hope folks would get that.
When we first started dating, Eric made me the most beautiful meal with carrot ribbons. I'm like, what guy makes carrot ribbons on a first date? It was the cutest thing in the world. But yeah, there's something about, I do have an extensive cookbook collection, and Eat Your Books is this incredible, they actually were just bought. I'm so proud of them. It's turning into an app. I have a lifetime membership to this app, but you say carrots and you put in carrots, it then shows you the 150 recipes you could make in your own cookbooks that use carrots. And so that's another thing. We have a little library. We can, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep in our Eat Your Books, and then pull out the 6 different books that might have a recipe. And there's something very cool about researching the recipe and then thinking, oh, we would really crush that. So, and Eric has actually gotten excited to cook a lot more recently, so it's been really nice.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Michael.
I'm Thomas. Welcome to our home in Virginia. Please come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Michael Devine, and I'm a textile designer.
And I'm Thomas Burak. I'm an interior designer.
And we're in our home in Orange, Virginia, which is in central Virginia, a land of rolling hills and horse farms. We ended up in Orange. We had been looking desperately for 2.5 years in northwestern Connecticut and Millbrook, New York. And after 2 years of an unsuccessful search, to say the least, one night I was on Zillow, and I started on the eastern seaboard in Maine with our criteria, and I came down state by state, and I ran out of states at Maryland. And I thought, oh, well, I'd been to Virginia once for a book signing when my book came out, and it was wonderful. And I thought, well, let's see what's going on in Virginia. And there was a house in Virginia, in Orange, not this one, but another one that got us here. And that's what got us here. So the answer would be Zillow. So the architectural style of the house was actually designed by a well-known Charlottesville architect named Milton Grigg. And he had worked on Monticello at Williamsburg and had done a number of houses in sort of the 1950s, I think, to about the 70s. And this house was built in 1950. So it's very, it's a stone house. It's just a sort of Cape Cod style.
Welcome to our living room, which is painted a very dark gray, and the technique is lime wash, which gives the walls almost a suede-like finish. They're shaded. The color is called Caviar by Resource Paints. And I particularly like dark rooms at night. The walls seem to disappear. The colors jump from them at night. And we use a lot of candlelight in here also. And I think it gives a great mood to the room. All of the furniture came from previous our apartment in New York. And we'll start here with the banquette, which was in our dining room, which works perfectly in this corner of the room. And we chose this sort of rich gold and gray for the room so that it just has a richness to it. And these panels that I bought years ago at the flea market in Paris work perfectly and really kind of set the tone for the room. They were also used in our New York apartment in Gramercy. We have several things that are of interest. These are Fortuny fruits that I actually made myself. They're covered in Fortuny with vintage trim on a beautiful Italian tray table that we have. And over the years, we've collected many things like this that we purchased in Portugal. This came from Paris, and a lot of things that have a lot of meaning to us. A chair that I purchased in Italy. It's an Italian chair covered in a silk velvet. Particular interest in this room is this mirrored wall, which we actually inherited. And it's really 3 different panes that were all put together. And I think the original reason it was put in here was to give more reflection to the wall, or to the room, excuse me. But what we're looking at here is a collection of blue and white porcelains that we have collected over the years. Some of them actually were pieces that Michael collected before me and me before him. And the brackets that we used that we had some in Gramercy, we had some in the Country Place in Kinderhook, and just put all of the brackets up and to highlight all of the pieces. And some of them are vintage, some of them are newer pieces. And I particularly love the effect it gives, and particularly at night when you have the candles glowing and the chandelier and all the reflection in here just gives tremendous depth to the room. And I look at all of these pieces, and some of them are big and add drama, but I love particularly these little vases here that we did a grouping of 2 on each little bracket. They just have such a particular little charm about them versus just having the big pieces, which of course I love everything big and dramatic, but there's something wonderful about those 4 little vases. Of note in the room also is the mantle. The person that built the house collected a lot of salvage, and this came from a mansion in Richmond, which we think is really a spectacular piece, and the black and white tiles on the floor, and enhanced it with a beautiful French mirror that was bought in Paris years ago. These sconces that are sort of obstructed by the forsythia came from the DuPont Mansion in Delaware. A collection of pillows that are varied. We have some Fortuny. We happen to have a particular love for Fortuny. This one is a vintage Fortuny pillow that was given to me by a friend, David Duncan, who's an antique dealer. And also, speaking of David Duncan, their Swedish chandelier came from his shop also. The chairs are covered in horsehair. It's an embroidery pattern, and when I designed this when I was creative director at Schumacher. So the fabric on here is from Schumacher. This is also a vintage Schumacher fabric that was in one of the collections I did for them. And we like a lot of antiques and mixing different styles. So we have Swedish. This particular piece is English, Victorian. It was actually the first piece of furniture I ever bought. This was even prior to Michael. I bought this at a sale and have had it ever since, wherever it's traveled with me. This is a Swedish desk, and we enhanced it with the hydrangeas. And I love doing these big arrangements. I think looking at the forsythia and looking at here, the things that are done in scale, that just have pizzazz to them. And these are hydrangeas that obviously have come from our property, and we just keep sticking them in there, and they dry beautifully, and from season to season, we'll enhance and add a couple more or so forth. Throughout the room, which has a lot of formal furniture, we wanted to sort of tone it down with the rush on the floor, which gives it a little bit more casual country look. And this comes from a company called Rush House, and I really love the look of it. It just pulls everything down and makes it less complicated. We decorated this home to actually be our own personal style, very classic, traditional. We both love a lot of pattern, we love color, we love chintz, and we really made this very personal. We have many friends that come and love our home, and that's always a benefit. But I think anyone, and myself as a professional designer, feel you design your home to your own liking. We had many pieces of furniture that I'd collected over the years, and it all fit into this house beautifully. And all it did was we needed to do backgrounds and paint and wallpapering and so forth. And of course use a lot of Michael's fabrics in the house, which again give it such personal style.
But one of the great things about this house was it had been very well maintained over the years, so it really was what I call a paint and paper house. We didn't have to do massive renovations, which we had done both recently in New York and then also at our other country house up north. And that's just not our thing. We don't have a great fondness for tearing houses apart. It's great to do it for a client, but having lived through the horrors of the war twice, we didn't want to get involved in that again.
As you will notice, there are a lot of chairs in the room. Now I have a passion for chairs. I could have a room just full of them. And what we like about the chairs that are various sizes and feelings is that they can be moved. This can be, this is an easy chair to move if someone wants a conversation group here or if people want to add to there. And what I love about them is that they're different styles, they're different finishes. Here, this little child's chair that we picked up in an antique shop actually was upholstered in this fabric, oddly enough, and it had double welt, which is a no-no in our book. So I took off the double welt and applied a gimp to the chair. This was a vintage chair that we bought, and this happens to be a Schumacher fabric that I was responsible for when I was at Schumacher. It is a vintage. I just happened to have enough of it to cover this chair. And we love the collection of chairs. I think they sort of tell a story. Who sat in them? How was this made? How was this designed? I think the Italian chair is of particular interest because if you look at the front of the chair, it's all decorated with white and gold. And this more than likely would have been placed against a wall because if you notice, the back has no gold. It's just plain. There's no carving on the legs and the back and the inside. So this would have been typically placed against the back of a wall. And a lot of things were done like that. Gold gilded candlesticks had that same thing. This is not gilded in the back because they were used on the altar. You would not have seen the back. We're on our way to the dining room, but as we go through the entry to the house, which is rather small, but we think it has impact and it's kind of a work in progress. We feel like we want to do some other additional work on the walls. But of particular note in here is the tiger carpet that runs up the stairs from Patterson Flynn Martin. It's done by a French mill. It's 39 inches in width, so it is a very vintage kind of carpet. And I upholstered the banisters with a linen velvet, which happens to be one of my favorite fabrics. And of course the silk tassels from Brunswick. I happen to adore tassels and any kind of trimming. I think if I had a dog, I'd probably trim it. But this floor, again, is the slate and marble that was put in by the person that built the house. And it gives you almost a sense of an 18th century French chateau. The chandelier is kind of fun. We felt the porcelain flowers with the wood basket gave the entry some character. And of particular note here is a painting that was given to us by a friend, and it's a painting of oranges, and of course we are in Orange, Virginia. So it has a great meaning to us, as does the friend, and of course the painting that she gave to us. My background is in interior design, and I have always loved doing interiors and so forth. I skewed away from that for a bit and was involved in doing furniture showrooms, which is basically still design. At one point, I was Vice President and Creative Director for Schumacher Fabrics. So that related to the home, obviously. And since fabric and color are my passion, that was a wonderful point in my career. And then I bounced back to interior design, which I do love. I love doing it for myself, and I love doing it for clients. And one of the greatest satisfactions of doing people's homes is when they tell you how much they love it, or they love a particular corner in their room that they spend their time in with their, reading a book and having a glass of wine.
I started my career in New York and went through the Bloomingdale's buying program and spent 5 years in New York, and then randomly on a lark got accepted to the Sorbonne and ended up at the Sorbonne for a year studying French, and then another year at the École du Louvre. Came back to New York and serendipitously landed at Condé Nast as a party and style editor for 6.5 years, where I wrote two weekly columns for HFN magazine. And then I started my textile company, and we now work on interior design. So, and I wrote, and in the meantime, I also wrote a book for Rizzoli, An Invitation to the Garden, on entertaining in our garden in Kinderhook. Welcome to the dining room. This is one of our favorite rooms in the house. When we moved in, we thought we would do something rather unusual in that we only light the dining room with candlelight. So the chandelier is candles, and it takes about 22 candles for a dinner party, which makes us very grateful that we have IKEA's candles to use, because the box of 50 is so inexpensive. We've set the table with various things we've collected, the salt cellars and the pepper shakers. The birds are all things that we've found along life's journey. The fabric is actually a fabric that I designed for my hand-printed textile collection, and it's called Orangerie. The dinnerware is a beautiful pattern called Charlotte, which is based on one of my fabric patterns, and it's hand-painted in France by Marie Dage, and as is the Thomas dinner plate, which coordinates back to the Thomas fabric that we do for the collection. The napkins are really interesting in that they're the typical linen damask napkins that pretty much everybody has in their house or have inherited from their grandmothers, but we dyed them with Rit dye to give them a new lease on life. The flowers are all from the garden. When we were very fortunate in that we inherited a rather significant collection of historic daffodils. So we have a wealth of varieties of daffodils, and these are Euphorbia Caracus rufii that also grow in the garden, and that's a great plant. It looks fantastic all year and is very generous and self-sows itself all over the place, which makes it a very welcome friend in the garden. The walls, when we moved in and saw the house, I thought, we were sort of debating about what we should do about the walls, and I had offhandedly told Thomas that I would paint the walls and do a mural. Well, it took a while to get the mural together, but I finally did this winter. So this was my winter project, which was rather a nice project because I'd be in here every morning painting while I had the light with a fire going and a cup of tea. And the Consoles are a pair. We had them in our Gramercy apartment. Thomas had found them on a trip to Italy years ago, so we're very happy to have found a new place for them in the house. And the color is Bougainvillea by Resource Paint. It's a really striking color, and it's a color that I think works very well in the room with the floor and the marble mantle. The mantle is from a historic house in Richmond. It was salvage, as is the floor. The wall sconces are from Nerman Weeks. We had these in our dining room in Gramercy Park, as is the cobalt mirror is an antique that Thomas found on a trip, I believe, to Sweden. These we found together last summer in France when we were at Porte de Valme Flea Market. We fell upon those and just had to have them. And then on the table we also have vases from our travels. The small vases with the daffodils are from Petersham's in Richmond, which is a fantastic nursery. If you ever happen to be in Richmond, England, I highly recommend a day trip out there to see that, and maybe Ham House, which is not too far away. And then I also recommend a lunch at their Michelin star restaurant, which was a real treat. A friend of ours took us there when we were visiting a few years ago. When we're entertaining, I'm often envious of Thomas because since I cook, I am obviously get to spend more time in the kitchen than he does, and he gets to spend the time with the guests. When we moved into the house, the original dining room was the library because they had added on the kitchen in the early 2000s. But when we moved in, we decided we wanted to make this the dining room. And it's a beautiful room. We love this room. But the issue happens to be that the dining room is quite a distance from the kitchen. So I get to hear all the laughter while I'm in the kitchen getting everything ready to bring out. And I get a little, like I said, I get a little bit jealous of Thomas for that, for having that privilege. So speaking of the kitchen, let me show you just how far it is to the kitchen. And now we're walking through the hyphen, which connects the older part of the house with the relatively newer part of the house. And this is a great space because it transitions. We used one of my wallpapers called Millbrook on the walls, which I had designed with the idea for another house that we ended up obviously not buying. The curtains were ones that I designed and used a design from John Fowler, from Colfax and Fowler, because we wanted to have that sort of John Fowler, Nancy Lancaster reference in our house in Virginia, since she's from Charlottesville. The collection in the corner cabinets, which were part of the house when we bought it, is Mulberry, and that's a collection that Thomas had acquired over the course of his travels. Follow me and let's go to the kitchen. I think the soul of a house, it comes from the owners of the house and their collections and their personalities and their imprint on the rooms and how they arrange a table, how they arrange the flowers, whatever that may be, as whatever they think is their vision. That's what gives the house the character and that sort of joie de vivre.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I think that the way we approach everything when we're just even ourselves having dinner by candlelight, and it's what our passion is. Our passion is perfection, which can sometimes be very daunting.
Well, my passion isn't perfection. No one's ever accused me of that.
No, that's true. That would be my category.
That's your circus, not mine.
Yes, when Michael leaves the room, I go in after him and fluff a little bit more. But yes, anyway, one of us has a passion.
It's a very
but you
good,
do all the cooking.
It's yin yang, you know. And we have separate domains. I think that's been the secret in the sauce for the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. Here we are in the kitchen. This was added in the early 2000s, and it's got amazing light because of the 3 skylights. And then also the views out onto the garden are pretty wonderful too. It makes it a very inviting, airy, light room. When we moved in, I realized that we really didn't have enough storage for our pots and pans. So I found this fantastic rack, and it's the most amazing thing because I can see exactly which pot and pan and where they are, and it makes life a lot easier than searching for them in the bottom of a cabinet. We have part of our glassware collection. Since we do a lot of entertaining, we have a lot of glasses. This is the tea and coffee bar that we have set up, and we use that every day, all day long. The tiles are, I had seen the photos of Monet's kitchen in Giverny for years, and then finally in 2017 we took a visit to Giverny, and I absolutely fell in love with them and had to have them in my dream kitchen. So in 2021, we made the journey to the little tile factory that Monet had used, which is Ponchon in Ponchon, France. And it's when Monet would have bought the tiles, it was a group of 7 factories. And now it's one small atelier with an amazing artist who is keeping the tradition alive. So these are all hand painted. And we did a custom glaze, so they really tie into the ones that Monet had in his kitchen. And then we were also able to do a portrait of the house in the center. And since the name of the house is Oakton, we have the oak leaves to the upper left. And since we have so many squirrels, which in my opinion now are really tiny terrorists, we did a portrait of the squirrel. And then Thomas can talk about the renovation that we did in here.
Yes, we did a simple renovation. Well, maybe it wasn't so simple, but the cabinets were originally kind of a light honey color, and we decided we wanted to get them painted. So we used a floor paint from Resource. And a floor paint on cabinets gives you a lot of durability and so forth. Because if you think of it in terms of putting it on a floor, you can walk on it. We don't walk on our cabinets, but they do get some use. So the floor paint does help. We added the curtains behind the glass doors since we inherited the cabinets. And we really didn't want to see what's inside of them. Cabinets can get messy, so it's just, I think it gives it a nice cleaner look. We installed the butcher block counters, which I think give a nice warmth to them. Replace the hardware, replace the marble that was here. There was a granite here. And it just all looks much lighter and brighter, and as Michael said, with all the light coming in from the skylights, it's a very pleasant room to work in. Although Michael's the one that primarily works in the kitchen, I do the cleanup. But anyway, the look of the room is just very sort of casual country. There's a needlepoint cushion on one of the chairs that Michael did. It's a cabbage, so that has kind of interest adds some interest to the kitchen. Some artwork and pieces that we've picked up over the years, obviously sort of kitchen related, the cabbage, the grapes, the still life, the naturemort, and more vegetables and so forth here. We have a few pieces of Majolica that are scattered through the house, a couple of plates at the top there, some pitchers sitting on the counter. The sconces that we have on this stone wall, it's stone and brick, it's a very rustic sconce that I bought years ago in Milan and had used them in various locations, and they seem to be the most perfect here. Above the armoire is a painting that a dear friend of ours gave us. We admired it, and she had inherited many pieces from this artist, and she gifted that to us. And it has very special meaning, and it has a bit more of a modern look than most of the artwork in our house. But then it's combined with our collection of blue and white. I guess by now you understand that we do love blue and white. Several of these pieces were purchased in Paris recently, and combined it with a few white stoneware pitchers and so forth.
So we really rely on what's growing in the garden. So since we're in Virginia, we pretty much have something out there 12 months out of the year. The winter is obviously much more driven by leeks and parsnips and rutabagas and lettuces, whereas in the spring and summer and fall we have wealth of great produce that we can just go out the back door and pick. And that drives all the menus and what we eat. So we eat very seasonally.
I think as far as when we start looking at designing the home and so forth, we really seem to gravitate towards very similar things. We seem to agree on most things. There are those occasions that we might disagree or look at things differently, but we pretty much have the same eye. If we go to an antique show or an antique shop, it seems like we'll both gravitate to one thing. It's very uncanny. So we really had an easy time doing the house. There are a couple things that might not have been so easy, but I think overall it's been good.
Well, you know, and we don't really argue ever, which is great. But if we do hit an impasse in the process, we just stop until we can sort of, and then it just doesn't get done really. That's the way that works.
And here we are in our library, which is probably the most used room in the house. It has a certain warmth, not only in the wintertime, but also throughout the year. We use the fireplace constantly. We also have a small dining area in here that we have dinner many nights, and we will also entertain in this room. This is a room that sort of everyone that comes to the house gravitates to. The color of the walls just kind of envelops the room with this wonderful sort of blue-green, sort of almost an undescribable color, and takes on different feelings as the light changes and so forth. One of the biggest things in the room is our collection of Russian Impressionistic paintings, as you will see throughout the room on both sides of the fireplace. They're here on either side of the doorway. There's some interspersed in the bookcases. These were things that I started collecting. I had a particular affinity to them. They sort of remind me of my background. And I particularly love some of them are unfinished, and they come from various different artists. All of them are signed on the back, which is rather unusual for most artwork. And I put lucite on the back so you could read the signatures. The room is anchored by an antique Ushak rug, which was originally purchased for our Gramercy Park apartment. It has wonderful colors and rather unusual for an Ushak, the browns and the greens and the golds, and it's very rich. And the sofa was custom made that we've had for years, and it's upholstered in what is one of my favorite fabrics. It's an Italian linen velvet, which just wears like iron, and as it gets older, it just mellows, and it has this wonderful shading effect to it, and you can see how it varies with the way the light hits it and so forth. And on the sofa are a collection of needlepoint pillows. Some of the pillows like this, and the two on the end there were done by Michael. The other ones are antique needlepoint pillows.
Particularly all the garden books have almost all been read cover to cover by me over the last 10 years or so. And certainly all the French novels have from when I lived in Paris and was at the Sorbonne, so I have. And even after, obviously, I lived in Paris, I've continued to read in French. So yes, all of those. And then that section is sort of the to be read section. But yes, the books are constantly on and off the shelves. And I use them as reference for we use them for references for design work, for the garden, for just the pleasure of looking at them, really, for enjoying the photography, enjoying the ideas.
And I would have to say that the section that has most appeal to me are the decorating books that we have a large collection of. That I'm a little bit more apt to read those than the garden books, which is Michael's category, or the cookbooks on this side, which is his category. But all in through here, different designers that we've collected through the years, and they're great reference books. I mean, some evenings we'll just sit and just pull a whole bunch of them and sit in the chaise and just spend the night flipping through beautiful rooms. The bus in the room I purchased at an antique show in Southampton, and in those days there was a big outdoor antique show, and these were just sitting on the ground, and I had to have them. They obviously are not very mobile, and I had to have obviously had them delivered to the apartment, and I had these pedestals. And when I told the man to put the bus on the pedestals, he refused because he said those busts will collapse, those pedestals. So I had to have the pedestals reinforced with a new base and so forth, and they have stood their time in Gramercy, and now they're standing their time in our library in Orange. And the busts are made of marble and bronze, which obviously makes them extremely heavy. As you notice in this room, we have a lot of pattern and color. And the thing when mixing patterns together, you have to look at the individual piece. Like this piece over here, the chaise has a lot of pattern, but if you put something like this right on top of it, it might look a bit confusing. You have to think of things separate in the room as individual pieces, and how do they relate to the wall, how do they relate to the floor, and in this particular case, the toile ties into the brown, this chair ties into the green of the carpet, as does the sofa and the chair that we did in the same velvet. The pattern of all of the pillows, again, contrasts against a solid background. So again, I think if the sofa had a lot of pattern on it, it might be too much. And I think that having the dark green as a background, it just gives you this individual piece and their individual moments. The moment here where you have the tapestry on the wall, again, some pattern, but it's separated by wall color, it's separated by the table and chairs, and that makes for a particular, almost separate area in the room as a separate dining area.
How did we meet?
How did we meet?
Oh, well, it's rather a classic story. We met across a crowded room. We were in Chicago 25 years ago in this April, and at a color conference and for work, and I had gotten to the conference opening remarks late, and I had to sit in the balcony, and I looked down amongst, 600-700 heads, and I saw Thomas and thought, my, he looks cute. So, yeah, and then we ended up in a small breakout room with on our little committee that we were working on at 10 people, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting for this one person, which now, 25 years later, I know why we were waiting, because Thomas has a terrible sense of direction. So, and in walked Thomas, and that's it. 25 years later, here we are.
Across the table, those blue eyes were just staring at me. What could I do? And here we are. I guess it worked.
Every day's been bliss. Let's go in the sunroom. And now we're in the sunroom. This is the one room in the house that probably had the biggest change since we moved in. When we moved in, there were bookcases on all three walls. The French doors were closed off with a bookcase in front of them. And then we opened that back up, took out all the bookcases. The walls are lime washed in a pale, pale pink to complement the red and oranges in the bricks. The floor is brick, which is a fantastic floor for a plant room because if water gets on it, it's low maintenance. The pieces of furniture are pieces that we found. We found this chair at auction, and we found this East Lake chaise at Brimfield, Massachusetts, at the flea market there. Both of them are covered in my Walton fabric, which is hand printed. And then the mirror we found in the Finger Lakes at a little antique store hidden away in the back corner. And it's an interesting melange of bits and bobs and shells and a little cameo on the top. So it's a really fun piece. The plants are in here for the season. They're as anxious to get outside as I am to get them outside, which should be happening in about another week or two. The wire plant stand is a plant stand that we actually found at a flea market in the Finger Lakes at Madison Bachville years ago, and it's the perfect piece for in here. This little table and chairs, the chairs we actually bought at auction for a house that we were absolutely certain we were going to buy and did not buy. So there you have it. But fortunately, these chairs worked in this house, so we were able to paint them and use them in the sunroom. And then the French doors were a big project because we had to knock through the wall and have the doors custom made.
And one of the things that Michael didn't point out are the two chandeliers that were in the house. They were not in this room. There was, I think, recessed lighting in here. But they're really quite fanciful. They almost look like icing on a cake if you look very close to the way the bronze comes over the bowl of the chandelier. And they were in two different rooms in the house, and we sort of put them in here. And on these brackets are these really fanciful, they are vases actually, that were given to us by our dear friends in New York. So let's go and check out the rest of the house. So before we go upstairs, let's check out the powder room. This was actually a full bath, and we really use it as a powder room for our guests. So what we did is there's a full shower behind here, and we added these doors to conceal the shower, and they're upholstered in a beautiful Fortuny fabric, which happens to be one of my favorite patterns, and also Fortuny is one of the loves of my fabrics. The walls were done by Michael, where you see they're a shaded shade of green. They're all sort of antiqued and washed. And in here we also have a collection of French garden gates in the sepia tones. What I did, since it's always hard to find tissue box holders, I actually decoupaged this myself to have that same sort of black and white feeling. These are drawings of Michelangelo. And we also added the monkey sconces, which I think give a little bit of a whimsical touch to the powder room. The sitting monkeys at the window, and we also use these little guest towels with monkeys on them. So you get a bit of a theme without getting too carried away. We added the piece of furniture here, and the dark wood against the green walls gives a certain richness. This is the old Paris Opera, and then we have an Italian piece above it. When Michael said that we were looking at houses in Virginia, I thought he was actually crazy. I said, why Virginia? We've never been there.
I'd been there.
Or he had been there, and I just thought it was a little absurd, but came down and fell in love with Virginia, and obviously fell in love with the house that we ended up buying. So I guess in the long run, he was right.
Well, we also have to credit our friend Charlotte Moss, because we had been at a cocktail party that she was hosting for another friend, Margot Shaw, for her book, Flower. And I'd asked Charlotte about Orange, Virginia, and her response was so overwhelming positive that's what I think got onboarded Thomas to the idea, because really it was completely random and absurd for us to be looking in Virginia because we had no connection to the area at all. 5 years later, I can say we have great connections to the area and have great friends here.
We do indeed.
Let's head upstairs. Now we're in the primary bedroom. This is a fantastic room. It has light on 3 sides. Since it didn't really have a full wall to place the bed on, we're floating the bed in the center, and we're flanking it with 2 screens that we covered in mohair velvet. And we have a collection of bits and bobs that we've acquired over the years that just each reflect our own personalities, and they're very different on either side of the bed. The chair under the window, it's one of a pair, and it's in one of my fabrics that I custom printed in the Gramercy pattern. The 2 chairs in front of the fireplace are 2 that we found in Woodstock, Vermont, in a little antique store. And then we had the tremendous good fortune of finding a very large curtain panel made out of this beautiful Jean Monroe hand-printed fabric. And it even had the little ruched trim on the edge of the lead edge of the curtain. So when we had these redone, we reused the trim and added the piping, the gathered piping on the cord on around the back of the chair and along the front edge of the seat. The needlepoint ottoman was my COVID project. I did that in Berlin work, and I followed an 1840s charted pattern, so it was not a painted pattern on a canvas, but I counted all the stitches. So that was, COVID was a long period, you know, that lockdown, so needed something to do. So that was the project. Originally started life as a rug, but Thomas decided that it needed to be an ottoman, that he didn't want to use it as a rug. We have another collection of blue and white that we've acquired, just bits and bobs. This is a painting that we found in upstate New York in a little antique shop. These bronze lamps are rather special. Thomas just found these years ago at an antique store in High Point. The finials are particularly lovely. The bed hangings are made from one of my fabrics, Thomas, and the pattern's Thomas, and we custom printed it in the blue on cream linen and linen and silk ground cloth. And the interior is lined with a coordinating green damask fabric. And the hellebores are from the garden. This is my side, so it has a bit of a different theme to it.
Okay, now we are in our dressing area, which this area has a particular fondness for me, since I actually upholstered all the walls, covered all the doors, and even covered the moldings with a antique linen velvet. So it just gives a wonderful, almost jewel box-like feeling. It's a great background for small bits of artwork and things that we've collected over the years. There's a collection of menswear that were ads for a French magazine. And this is pretty much the area that all of our closets are in. This also transitions into the guest bedroom, which also the guest bedroom has an entrance from the other end of the house. What the word home means to me is a place that you can put yourself in, surround yourself with things that are so personal to you that you enjoy just sitting and looking at them. You enjoy them. Home is where we enjoy each other, where we enjoy our friends, and it really is a sanctuary to get away from the world. No matter what's going on, when you're at home, you're surrounded by your environment, and no one can touch you at that point. It's you.
Yes, I don't know that I could elaborate on that any better.
Thanks for watching.